We're going to call to order the 2015 deliberative session for Timberlane Regional School District. I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Earl Metzler.
Well, good evening. Thank you for coming this evening. I'd like you all please stand.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Outstanding. I'm going to ask that you please remain standing. We're going to pledge the flag. Salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. Mr. Moderator.
You're out. Thanks, guys.
Again, I want to thank you all for showing up this evening. My name is Steve Ranlett. I am your moderator. My assistant moderator is Norm Major. Another assistant moderator will be Bob Harb, who is the current moderator for the town of Plastow. We'll start off with introductions of the school budget committee and the school board. One thing I would remind everybody, cell phones, if you could either shut them off or put them on vibrate, that would be greatly appreciated. Introduction, we'll start with Rick Blair. Rick.
Hi, my name is Rick Blair. I'm on the Budget Committee as a representative for the school board, and I'm also a school board member from Plastow.
Michelle O'Neill, Budget Committee, Danville.
Gregory Spiro, Budget Committee, Atkinson, New Hampshire.
Dennis Heffernan, Vice Chairman, Budget Committee, Plastow Representative.
Joshua Horns, Budget Committee, Danville.
Thomas Geary, Budget Committee, Plastow.
Tony Cantone, Budget Committee, Plastow.
Arthur Green, Budget Committee, Sandown.
Kelly Ward, School Board, Sandown.
Sue Sherman, School Board, Plastow.
Donna Green, School Board, Sandown. Kate Delfino, School Board, Atkinson.
Good evening, everyone. Jason Grosky, Chairman of the Budget Committee from Atkinson.
Nancy Steenson, School Board Chair, Danville.
Good evening, I'm George Stokinger, the Business Administrator.
Good evening, my name is Gordon Graham. I'm the school district's attorney.
Jack Sapia, School Board, Atkinson.
Good evening and thank you for coming. I'm Peter Bilo, one of the Plastow School Board representatives.
Thank you very much. We have a few words from the superintendent, Dr. Metzler.
Thank you. Good evening. Dean, could you please cue up the video, the actual slideshow, please? Well, first, a lot of planning went into this evening, and I appreciate all of you coming out tonight in the true spirit of democracy. But first, I'd like you to acknowledge and thank the following people for the work that went into the planning and preparing for the deliberative session. The Planning Committee, Tony DiBartolomeo, Jim Hughes, Angelo Fantasia, Don Woodworth, Steve Rugoletti, Dean Zanillo, Patty Mangini, and Pat D. Rienzo. Also, all of the high school custodians, facility staff, Kevin Bartos, and Mike Reed, as well as Kathy Belch. How about a nice round of applause for all their work that went in. Okay, let's start this. I had some plans. I haven't shared any of these plans yet with the board or the budget committee, so this will be the first time they see this. But I was looking at the fields and looking at the booth outside, and I kind of wanted to get some feedback from you to see if you thought these might be some good plans as we move forward. And what I'm told, this will cut down on maintenance of cutting grass and all kinds of things. So I just sketched out some quick plans. Just wanted to see what you thought about what we might do. Sorry, Jack. Too soon? All right, we'll wait.
It's a long day.
Okay, so why are we here tonight? There's a delicate balance between politics and pedagogy. Pedagogy meaning the strategies we go about teaching, and certainly the politics that we go about raising funds. And what does that really mean? A delicate balance between those two. When we look at it, this is really what it means. We have people far to the right, which is into fiscal conservatism, and then we have people that could be considered far to the left, which would be economic liberalism. What does that mean in terms of numbers? Well, if you looked at the budget and you thought 67, almost 68 million, if you went really far left, it is true that number could be 72 or 73 million. If you went really far right, that number could be 63, 64 million. So what I'm asking is to not go too far right or too far left, to come into the center, because when we go too far left, we can't afford it. If we go too far right, we can't afford it. We can't afford to lose programs and teachers and services for our kids. A delicate balance between the two. So you look at it, you look at student achievement and what it costs. What does it cost to deliver the absolute best for our kids? We have those issues tied together. I'm asking you to please pull those issues apart. What it really means is we expect the very best for our kids. You have an outstanding school district. I couldn't be any more proud to be your superintendent. But we are super sensitive to what it costs. And we are all over the place, from really far left, that there's way too much spending, to really far right, that cuts would really, really hurt us. So when we take a look at that, what is it doing to us? It's pulling our 4 towns apart. We're looking at this from a way, how do we put the co-op back in cooperative? How do we bring our 4 towns back together, something that we can afford the absolute very best for our school district? Now, it was in the fall, and I was asked a really, really serious question, and I wasn't quite sure what the answer was, and that was by Mr. Cantone, our budget committee member from Plastow. Very simple question. What's the metric? What can we use to judge whether or not we're doing the very best for our kids? And we're all over the place. I mean, it could be as silly as, if I sold more lunches today in Timberlane than, say, another district, does it mean we have a better lunch program? Obviously not. So when we looked at metrics, we said, what really matters? What matters is the opportunities that we provide to our kids. More specifically, why they're here and when they leave. Even more specific than that, it's the dropout rate and the graduation rate. So when we compare Timberlane to districts that have a dropout rate higher than ours, and they don't graduate kids like ours, what does it mean to Timberlane? How much is enough? Let me tell you. The district that we've been comparing ourselves to would mean 40 of our kids at Timberlane potentially would drop out or not graduate this year. In 4 years, that's 160 kids. And in 10 years, that's 400 kids. If divided equally, that's 100 kids from each one of our 4 towns. How much is enough? That's too much for me, not on my watch. And that's what happens when you have high class size. That's what happens when you go too far to the right. It doesn't do our children any good, it doesn't do our community any good, and we could talk about this all night long. I'm asking you to take that into consideration when we separate out what it costs for what we want. So you've seen the budget bullseye. Well, over the last few months, I've been trying to put the 4 towns in the middle of that budget bullseye. What's it mean? What can we afford? What can we afford? We can't afford a high dropout rate. We can't afford our graduation rate to be impacted. We can't afford to not provide our kids the opportunities while they're here and when they leave. That is absolutely things that we can't afford. So as we take a look, local control. We're losing local control. That couldn't be any further from the truth. Look what's happening tonight. Local control is not a few people too far to the right or too far to the left. Local control is joining each other in the middle of this gym and making sure that we figure out what we can afford and what we want from our school district and our kids. That's what's important. Actually, if you look at this, more people have checked in and engaged in the Timberlane Regional School District than ever before. This night is epic, and this is local control. So the budget philosophy, you've seen these slides before, and certainly we haven't changed in the 3 years we've been here. Our students, your children, my children, our children are in the center of everything we do. And right outside of that's the academic classroom. We're trying to protect that at all costs. We're not going to take the kids out and have them looking in at nothing. You have to decide. You want them on the inside out or the outside in? Ask yourself, where do you stand? We're putting the kids in, this is non-negotiable as long as I'm your superintendent. The kids are going to stay in the center of that bullseye, and I know where I'm going to stand. You have to ask yourself where you're going to stand. I'm going to stand with our teachers and our kids. It's non-negotiable. They have an outstanding district. We have outstanding support. Thank you. God bless you. God bless America. Have a great meeting.
A few words from Nancy Steenson.
Those who know me well know how good I am with technology. I need a primer here. Hello, everybody. Good evening, and thank you so much for coming to participate in this important process. I really appreciate your taking the time to be here. 3 years ago, we, the members of the school board, found ourselves looking for a new superintendent. To that end, we held 7 focus groups so that you, members of our community, could tell us what you wanted in a superintendent and where you wanted the board to lead this district. You, parents, students, and community members, spoke, and we listened. You told us, and I'm quoting focus group participants directly, that you wanted a superintendent who understands that our goal is to have people want to send their kids here for our excellent academics and teachers, who knows that property values are affected by school performance, who has experience in objectively raising educational expectations in students, parents, and teachers, and in improving outcomes, including performance on standardized tests and challenging programs by students, who supports a curriculum that challenges and promotes excellence for all kids, pushes the high achievers, challenges them, won't accept simply teaching to the middle. Someone who has experience in implementing programs in the elementary school that make school a more positive experience for kids in grades K through 5, understands that these are the years in which children develop either a positive or negative attitude towards school, who wants us to be excellent, is excited about leading us to be excellent, who will be so involved in helping us to be excellent that when they get an idea, they can't sleep at night because they are thinking of ways to implement it or to solve a problem. That's how involved they are and will be. Who knows that schools are meant to provide students with the best possible education so that they are prepared for the future, knows how to create these schools. A superintendent who is able to lead the schools, has experience, and is able to motivate people to follow him to do great things. Who has a demonstrated ability to improve curriculum and student performance. Who realizes, understands, and is able to meet our desire to have a school system worthy of respect by those in the community and by those outside the district. Who is able to create a K-12 team with a practice of collegiality and a quest for excellence. Someone who understands the importance of networking, will network with alternative learning schools and places such as VLAX, Southern New Hampshire University, and Northern Essex to open avenues for our students, who is able to excite staff and community to want to send their kids here, to want to show up here, to run through a brick wall to get to Timberlane. And lastly, who is a turnaround person with a background of successful collaboration to create excellence. What we did not hear was slash the budget, cut programs, reduce staff. You tasked the school board with hiring a superintendent who would strive for excellence in all areas. In the 3 years that have passed since we held those focus groups, we have taken that mandate for excellence in our schools that you made very clear, and we have been supporting and encouraging Dr. Metzler's efforts toward that goal. Specifically, Dr. Metzler appointed 3 academic deans at the high school to ensure rigor, accountability, and proper evaluation of high school teachers. Timberlane High School was named High School of the Year in 2014. 2 of our elementary schools are finalists for Elementary School of the Year in 2015. The board introduced the Citizens Advisory Committee, made up of community members and tasked with advising the school board to ensure that members of the public have input into how the district is run. In an effort to increase rigor, Mr. Woodworth reintroduced midterms and finals at the high school. We heard you. We have introduced new opportunities to receive dual credit at Southern New Hampshire University, Northern Essex, and New Hampshire Technical Institute. Our SAT scores are up in all 3 test areas over the last 3 years. Our high school evening division has increased in rigor with the same expectations as day school, including midterms and finals. We have expanded summer school offerings for our students, including classes to prepare our AP students for the rigor of those courses in the fall. Under the direction of Tony D., we have an unprecedented 53 high school musicians making All-State, 2 times as many as any other high school in the state. And we heard some of them tonight. In addition, we have 28 musicians accepted into Chamber All-State and 15 students who couldn't be with us this evening because they're attending the Jazz All-State Festival beginning this evening. Our wrestling team won the state championship 21 out of the past 22 years. Our softball team won the state championship in 2013. Our boys volleyball team were state finalists last year, and our field hockey and boys indoor and outdoor track teams were all voted #1 in sportsmanship by their peers 2 out of the past 3 years. The number of our students receiving qualifying scores on AP tests is up 115% since 2012. The Guidance Department, led by Mr. Chuljan, organized our first and second annual college fairs, which was never done at Timberlane before. With over 110 colleges, military reps, and technical schools attending, giving our high school juniors and seniors a great opportunity to talk one-on-one with college admissions representatives without the time and expense of traveling. An attendance audit of high school students and teachers was conducted, shedding light on the importance of students and teachers spending maximum time in the classroom learning and underscoring our commitment to support student achievement and higher test scores. We began our Blizzard Bag initiative last year, allowing our kids to work from home during a snowstorm, thereby reducing the need for a snow day in the spring. You're probably aware these things take an enormous amount of work on the part of our administrators. The percentage of our graduates going on to 2- or 4-year colleges is up 8% since 2012. We instituted full-day Renaissance kindergarten, which is running at a small profit with Spanish language classes for all kindergarten students. We held our first annual job fair this past spring, ensuring that we have the best pool of applicants when we need to hire teachers and support staff. The district website, as well as the websites for all our schools, have been redesigned and updated, and a district Facebook page was launched in an effort to stay current and communicate with you to the best of our ability. Dr. Metzler has begun forming business partnerships with the community to allow us to work with local businesses in supporting the best education for our kids. We introduced the Tripod Project, a program which allows and encourages our students to give direct feedback to their teachers. And Dr. Metzler and his leadership team began instructional rounds immediately after he came on board, ensuring that he and other administrators have a chance to get into every single classroom in our district to see our teachers and students at work firsthand. We heard you ask for excellence, and we haven't stopped trying to deliver that. We accomplished all of this while keeping the budget in check. Specifically, the budget we are presenting this evening is up 0.58%, or $388,000, let me start again, $388,245. Since 2011-12, when we held those public forums, Timberlane's budget has increased an average of 1.85% per year. That's less than the average cost of living increase during that same period. Additionally, 45%, I'll repeat that, 45% of the budget increase since 2011-12 is due to increases in retirement and insurance costs, which we cannot control. Our remaining costs have increased $2,606,720 since 2011-12. That's an average annual increase of $654,180, less than 1% per year. This year's increase in one line item, New Hampshire State Retirement, is up $399,183, which is more than the total 2015-16 budget increase of $388,245. Sorry about that. If retirement costs had not increased, the budget we are presenting this evening would be less than last year. There are some who have questioned our staffing levels. Since our peak year of 2007-2008, enrollment has decreased by 851 students, or 18.4%. During that same time, the number of teachers has decreased by 44.7 full-time equivalents, or 12.22%. This decrease in enrollment has resulted in an average reduction of 1 teacher for every 19 students lost. We are confident that our staffing levels are appropriate as compared to other cooperative school districts. The Articles of Agreement between the 4 towns in our district don't allow us to bus our students between towns to maximize class size. They require us to have an elementary school in each of the 4 towns so that our youngest children can go to school in their own towns. Additionally, we offer a variety of programs at the middle and high schools which require adequate staffing of teachers to do so, regardless of student population, such as foreign language, engineering, AP classes, music, art, and athletics. This slide shows the estimated tax impact of the 2015-16 budget, and I'm almost done. There are some who may propose substantial cuts to the budget based on the argument that we spend too much and get too little for it. As I have just shown you, this is simply not true. A large cut would devastate our district and put us on a path leading backwards, not forward toward continued excellence. In closing, it is an honor and a privilege to serve this district and to provide the excellent opportunities we're able to provide for our students. I am so proud of our students and all that we have achieved here in the Timberlane District, and you should be as well. In summary, I present you with our 2015 budget of $67,723,927, an increase of 0.5 percentage point. How many of you will see your household budget increase less than 1% next year? I hope you will join me in supporting this budget as we continue to strive to make Timberlane the #1 school district in the state. As an alumnus of Timberlane High School so eloquently said about our children, are they your legacy or your burden? Thank you.
A few words from Rick Blair on the surplus.
Oh, thanks. Down. Right there? Good. Before I begin, could all the students in the audience please stand? Make a little noise so I know how many of you are out there. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, standing before you is the future. These are our future doctors, our future astronauts, our future firemen and firewomen, our future engineers, scientists, entertainers, teachers, and taxpayers. We have an obligation to provide the best education we can for these students that we can afford. Thank you. You may sit down. And that's what it really comes down to, what we can afford. There's a perception by some that the budget is inflated. I can understand why they might have that perception. After all, every year the town, the budget committee, and the school asks for a certain amount of money. And at the end of the year, there's always something left, something we call a surplus. I'd like to tell you why there's a surplus, and I will in a moment, but it is imperative that you understand that that surplus is returned to you as the taxpayers every budgeting season. So when you vote on a budget in March of this year for the 2015-16 school year, the surplus that is remaining from the previous full school year, the 2013-14 school year, is subtracted from that amount before the money is assessed to your property. But why is there a surplus? For one thing, the school budgeting process for the budget you will vote on in March started last year in September. Now, the school year starts officially July 1st, but the real spending doesn't start until the kids come back to school after summer break in September. So the budgeting process to estimate what they're going to need starts a year in advance. And it concludes in December, so 9 months in advance of the start of the spending is how far in advance the budget has to be planned. But that spending goes on until June of the following year, another 10 months. So the budgeting process has to estimate how much money we're going to need clearly over a year in advance of the spending of that money. The next issue is that the money that they put in the budget cannot be exceeded by the school district. In other words, that budget number that you vote on in March is all that the school gets to spend during that year. They cannot go over by a penny without coming back to the taxpayers and asking for more money. Imagine if you had to budget your next vacation that same way. Let's assume you're going to drive from here to Disney World and back, Disneyland and back, out to California, 8,000 miles. Let's say you're going to take that trip a year and a half from now in April or May of next year. And you put the mindset on that when you put that budget together, you cannot go over the budgeted amount. Who knows what the price of gas is going to be 14 months from now? Who knows if you'll still have the same car that gets the same gas mileage? You're going to be a little bit conservative knowing that you cannot spend a dime more than what you are putting in the budget. Also, when you finalize that budget for your trip 14 months from now, you can't change it between now and taking that trip. It's what was voted on, it is what was decided upon, it's inflexible. So now 14 months have passed, it's time to take that trip. You go to the bank, you take out traveler's checks, you pack up the kids and the dog, and you start driving. You notice that the gas prices are a little lower than you expected, so you got a little extra money in that line item for gas. How do you behave? Do you decide to spend that extra money right away and stop at that all-you-can-eat chocolate bar in Pennsylvania on your way out? Or do you hold on to that money just in case? Maybe when you get to Wyoming, your dog finds a porcupine and you've got a little bit of extra vet bills there. When you get to California, you go see Disney World, Disneyland and have a great time, and you spend your budgeted amount, you start heading back home. As you get closer to home, when the predictability of the spending is easier to understand and the end is in sight, how do you behave? You've got a little extra money left, probably because, like the school, you budgeted conservatively, knowing you could not go over that amount. And that if you ran out of money in Topeka, Kansas, you were stuck there. I've been there. I don't know if you want to get stuck there. So as you're getting home and you notice you have extra money, how do you behave? Do you start spending it, or do you arrive home with a surplus? We should be happy that the school comes back to us with a surplus and doesn't spend all of that money so that it can help offset our taxes the next year. Thank you very much.
Next on the agenda will be a list of non-voters who may be speaking at tonight's deliberative session. Dr. Earl Metzler, Dr. Roxanne Wilson, George Stokinger, Attorney Gordon Graham, Deb Armfield, Beth Rancon, Susan Rascott, Nancy Dennehy, Michelle Ogier, Doug Ralph, Michael Hogan, John Holland, Angelo Fantasia, Tony DiBartolomeo, Jim Hughes, Barry Chuligan, Lou Brode, Luann Moscone. There's no objection. Actually, is there a motion to allow these non-voters to speak at tonight's deliberative session?
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Bob Harb. Is there a second?
Second it.
Second by Dennis Heffernan. Tonight, if you do make a motion, state your name loud enough so that the clerk can hear it and note it down, please. Motion's been made and second. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. No? Abstentions? Ayes have it. Next be the moderator rules. Be no smoking. Obviously, it's a no smoking facility. And please, again, turn off your cell phones, place them on vibrate. Each person will treat every other participant with courtesy and respect. Any voter who wishes to address the meeting will approach the microphone, be recognized by the moderator, and will then state his or her name and address and spell their last name for the clerk. General comments will be limited to 3 minutes maximum. Presentations will be given 10 minutes. Please stay at the microphone for answers to your questions. All questions to the school board, budget committee, or other officials or other meeting participants will be directed through the moderator. Each voter who desires to speak on an article will be given a chance to do so before any other voter is given a second opportunity to speak on the same issue. Makers of a motion in a second will please state their name for the clerk. If you don't have a common last name, please spell it. Only one amendment will be allowed on the floor at any one time. No amendment to an amendment will be allowed. Such proposals will be dealt with as a subsequent amendment after the first amendment has been voted upon. Amendments must be in writing and signed by the voter. Also, again, print your name. Motions must be made in the affirmative. No negative motions. Secret ballots must be requested by 5 voters in writing and signed by the voter, be verified by the clerk, and made before the vote on an article or an amendment. Challenges to any voice vote require 7 or more voters immediately after it is announced who may request a written ballot. Municipal Budget Act of 10% limit will be explained by the school board chair if necessary. Reasonable discussion on both sides of a motion will be allowed before a call to question will be accepted by the moderator. A 2/3 vote is required for a call to question. Any amendment of financial amounts must be stated in dollars. Percentage figures must be converted to dollar amounts. Upon appeal of any ruling of the moderator, majority vote will prevail. Robert's Rule of Order will be used as a guide only this evening. Anytime during the meeting, these rules may be altered by a majority vote. Well, I guess I won't say the last line because we might have objection. Ma'am?
Hi. Good evening. My name is Beth Blomquist from the town of Atkinson. I assume this evening is going to be very long, so in order to keep things moving and get us all home at a reasonable hour, I would like to make a motion to the rule around general comments and presentations, and that it be changed to state that presentations also be limited to 3 minutes.
There's been a motion made, to be a second by Jack Sapia. Any discussion on the motion?
Yes, this motion should not be put...
State your name For the clerk, please.
Leon Artis Atkinson.
Thank you.
And I'd like to speak to this motion because I'd like to remind everybody here that this is the people's meeting. This is the one time a year that we as taxpayers who are going to be charged with paying the bill for whatever we do here tonight are the ruling people. We are the deliberative session. Quite frankly, I don't appreciate the rally that was just presented to us. If any of you have ever been to a deliberative session, you
Leon,
know
if we can stay to the motion.
the motion.
Address the motion.
There are people here who have wanted and been refused or not responded to that wanted to make presentations tonight. There are others that were granted permission to do a presentation tonight. They were allowed 15 minutes, and as of yesterday, your moderator rule cut it back to 10 minutes. This is germane, Mr. Bealow, thank you. And this deliberative body has the right to overrule any moderator decision or any moderator rule by a simple majority. This rule to not only not allow a presentation of 15 minutes or more should be overruled by the body. And I would like that vote to be taken now. I'm asking that the deliberative body allow everybody to speak with their presentations in the amount of time it takes to get their point across without a big pep rally as we just heard previously.
Point of order.
Okay, we're all set, Leon. Thank you. Is there anybody else that wants to speak on it? On the motion is to limit presentations to 3 minutes. Mr. Bealow.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I think traditionally in this venue at deliberative sessions of the school district and also of the town deliberative sessions I have had the pleasure of attending, comments are generally held to 3 minutes. I don't understand myself why some people would be allowed more time than others and have two different classes of presentations, if you will, and comments. So I personally endorse the 3-minute maximum for all.
Okay, anybody else would like to speak? Mrs. Green.
Thank you. The reason so many people are here today is because there is a challenge to the budget. People are interested in understanding the reasons there is a challenge to the budget, and it is patently unfair to the audience to deny the presenters an opportunity to explain why the budget is being challenged. That is why people are here tonight, and it does everyone a disservice to not allow that.
Thank you. Anybody else wish?
Mr. Moderator?
Anybody? Hold on. Anybody else wish to speak that has not spoken?
I stand.
Jack Sapia, go ahead.
I stand in favor of this motion. We have a very large audience here tonight. Usually we have about 50 people. Thank you all for coming, and after this we can start on the construction of the stadium. But you know, I don't know how anyone knows why everybody is here. That's a presumption. Both Dr. Metzler and the chair of our school board are officials. In their capacity, they gave informational, they shot out information about the school year. I think that's appropriate. And we're here to deliberate. So as articles come up and subjects come up, we will deliberate. So no one is being shortchanged the opportunity to deliberate the subject matter at hand. So I stand in favor of this motion for efficiency of time, and so we can move the meeting forward.
Thank you, Jack. Mr. O'Neill.
Yes, Sean O'Neill from Danville. I would think that in the true form of democracy, everybody should be able to say their piece and let the issue live or die on its merits. I don't personally agree with what the Greens will be presenting tonight, but I will agree that they have the right to say what it is and let it live or die on its own merits. I just think that with the ability to move the question at any given time, if somebody's up here being long-winded, somebody can make the motion, and the motion, if it should carry, would end that presentation. So this body will have the ability to end a presentation at any given time with 2/3. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Kimberly Farrer, Danville. Has there been a second on the motion?
Yes, there was.
Can I
We have a-
amend
we
the
had a-
motion?
Nope, you have one amendment on the floor at any given time.
I'll speak to the motion then. I think it's unfair for people that have put forward citizens petitions, that have warrant articles on the ballot, that have prepared to present more fully their warrant articles, for them to be limited. So at some point, I'd like to make an amendment to the motion.
Okay. Is there anybody else who would like to speak on the motion to limit to 3 minutes?
My name is Brian Stack, Plastow, New Hampshire, and to the last person's comment, I have a petition warrant article here tonight, and I am more than fine with 3 minutes.
Is there anyone else here that would speak that has not spoken yet on the... Hi. Rick Blair.
Rick Blair from Plastow. What differentiates a presentation from someone just speaking? I don't understand the difference. Is it because maybe there's PowerPoints, or because it's a prepared speech?
There's going to be presentations on quite a few of the articles this evening. And in the rules, there's 10 minutes for a presentation and 3 minutes for rebuttal comments back and forth.
I understand, but what I'm trying to differentiate is what's the difference between a presentation and someone just speaking? Is it that they have slides, or how do we, I don't understand the difference between the two.
Whatever they're going to use. If they're going to use their computer to do slideshows, anything like that. So if you just have general comments, it's limited to 3 minutes. If not, then you have 10 minutes to do a presentation. Dennis, if you hold on for a minute, Mr. Green. Mr. Green.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Everybody knows that I'm going to be moving an amendment to the budget. Everybody knows that the moderator's published his rules. I did reach out to the moderator and had an agreement on a 15-minute presentation. Yesterday, I learned I have to cut it back to 10. I have a 10-minute presentation. I wonder what people are so afraid to hear.
Mr. Heffernan.
I make a motion that we move the question.
Yeah, hold on.
Seconded.
Anything new to speak upon the motion? Something new?
Yes.
Go ahead, Mr. Artis.
If you're going to bring this vote, it should have come before the administration took up an hour and a half of our time with their presentations.
Okay, well. All right.
So,
there's a motion.
With
all
that
set.
being said, we should be given the same courtesy as the administration.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor. It was seconded. Any other discussion on the motion? Something new, or I'm going to move it to, well, we also have a secret ballot that's just been handed to me.
Discussion on the motion.
You have something new?
No, this is on the motion? On the motion to move the motion?
There's nothing new. I'm going to,
Mr. Moderator.
if you have something new to add, Mrs. Green, I'll let you
Yes.
speak. If not, we're all done.
Of course, I have something new to add, Mr.
Go ahead.
Moderator. I wouldn't ask to speak if I didn't. I have requested.
Point of order.
I have requested.
A point of order. Mr. Moderator, there has been a motion to call the question that's been seconded. I would suggest that we take a vote on that.
Mr. Grosky, I
Okay.
have requested a secret ballot. Now, I am
Mrs. Green,
prepared.
Mrs. Green, I understand that, and I'm going to be doing that next.
I know, Mr. Moderator, I am prepared to relax my request for a secret ballot if the petitioner will withdraw the amendment, the motion. If the
Okay.
petitioner withdraws the motion, I will withdraw my secret ballot. Otherwise, I request a secret ballot on this.
Thank you. I will ask that upon Beth, I think her name was. If she could just stand up, are you willing to, please? No, correct? Okay. She's not going to withdraw her motion. I'm going to move it to the floor. We do have Peter. We have 5 names that have been signed. They've been verified by the voter of the checklist to have a secret ballot on this. There being no other discussion, I'm going to move this to a vote, and it's going to be a secret ballot. I'm going to explain how this is going to be done.
Mr. Moderator?
Yes.
Can we announce who the signers are and what towns they're from of the secret ballot?
Yes, I can do that. Len Mullen from Danville, please. I don't have a gavel, so I'm just going to hit the podium. Len Mullen from Danville, Peter Terosian Atkinson, a name I can't read, from Atkinson. Marcia Devine from Sandown, Catherine Piemonte from Sandown, and Anthony, I believe, Piemonte from Sandown. Mrs. Green, Mary from Atkinson, do you know who that name is?
Mary Beth, she was not, that's a 6th name, and she wasn't certified by the lady on the checklist.
No, we do have plenty of names. They are here. The way we're going to conduct a secret ballot is when you checked in with your voters of the checklist, they gave you your voter card. You're going to go through these double doors. You're going to collect your ballot, and you're going to vote yes or no. You're going to walk down the hallway. There are signs that are going to bring you back around to voters of the checklist. Please. Okay. Okay. If I could call to order, please. When you receive your ballot, and you're going to put your ballot in the ballot box, you need to show your voter registration card to the voters of the checklist. So that's what we're doing.
Mr. Moderator, I'd like...
All done. Discussion's all done on the motion.
This is not
Okay.
a motion.
Okay. The only way, excuse me, if I can have your attention, the only way you're going to be recognized this evening, if you stand up and come up to the mic. Point of orders, move the question, anything will not be recognized from screaming out in the audience. You have to come up to the mic. What's your question?
It's not a question. My name's Paula Bone, and I'm from Sandown. We all know what side we're on. No matter what 10-minute presentation, question, whatever, we've heard it all.
Okay.
We've read all the newspapers. We all came out this evening. We would like to just get our information and move on.
I understand that,
We're not
ma'am.
going to get home till 2 in the morning here.
Absolutely, I totally understand with you,
And
but
can we
this is
all-
it, ma'am. Ma'am, enough,
You
please.
know what's really sad is this is for the kids.
Absolutely.
This is the way we behave
This is the
and
democratic-
show the kids how adults behave.
Okay. This is,
It doesn't matter what side you're on. We're all.
ma'am, please. Can we shut the mic off, please? I have to. It's the democratic process. We have a motion. We're done discussing it. Now we're going to vote. I have been handed a secret ballot. We have to do it. I've been advised by counsel on how to do this, and that's what we have to do this evening. So the next order of business is to start filing out, getting your
Mr. Moderator. Mr. Moderator.
Right. Okay. The motion that we're going to be voting on is to not allow 10-minute presentations. They are for everybody for 3 minutes. That is the motion, and that is on the floor.
Mr.
A yes vote will be limit presentations to 3 minutes like everybody else. A no vote will be to allow presentations for 10 minutes. Thank you. Okay, we're filing out this door here. 98, no votes, 134. The amendment passes. There being no other discussion on the moderator's rules, we'll adopt them as read and amended, and we will move on. The first session of the annual meeting is the deliberative session, which we are doing right now. The second session of the annual meeting is voting, which will take place on March 10th at your respective voting places. Article 1 will be the election of all the officers, which will take place on March 10th. We will move on to Article number 2, the operating budget. Shall the voters of the Timberlane Regional School District raise and appropriate as an operating budget, not including appropriations by special warrant articles or other appropriations voted separately, the amount set forth on the budget posted with the warrant or as amended by the vote of the first session for the purpose set forth therein, totaling $67,723,927. Should this article be defeated, the operating budget shall be $68,160,616, which is the same as last year, with certain adjustments required by previous action of the Timberlane Regional School District or by law. Or the governing body may hold one special meeting in accordance with RSA 40, 13, 10, and 16 to take up the issue of a revised operating budget only. Note, warrant Article 2, the operating budget, does not include appropriations proposed under any other warrant article. Majority vote is required. It was recommended by the School Board 701, and it was recommended by the Budget Committee 802. Is there a motion to place this warrant on the floor? Motion by Peter Bilo. Is there a second?
Seconded.
Second by Jason. I'll open this up for discussion.
Mr. Moderator, I'd like to make an amendment.
Okay. What's your amendment?
I would like to increase the budget number by $250,000 to a total of $67,973,927. That's the only change I've made in the warrant article. Here's printed, signed, etc. The reason for it is to...
We'll get to that.
Sorry.
We have amendment to Article number 2 to read. Operating budget of the voters of the Timberlane Regional School District to raise and appropriate as an operating budget, not to include appropriations by special warrant articles or other appropriations voted separately. The amount set forth on the budget proposed with the warrant article is amended by the vote of the first session for the purpose set forth herein, totaling
68.
Okay. I need the new totals.
The new total is
So-
in there. Thank you.
Okay. My mistake. Totaling $67,973,927. Should this article be defeated, the operating budget shall be $68,160,616, which is the same as last year, with certain adjustments required by law. There's a motion. Is it motion made on the amendment? Second. Second by Jack. I'll open the floor for discussion. Mr. Bilo.
Just by way of explanation, that additional $250,000 is to fund sprinklers in Danville Elementary School. I think it's something we ought to do. It's not required by code, but in speaking with various people in the fire departments, it's a safety issue for the firemen who, at the end of the day, would have to go in and search a burning building to make sure all the kids were evacuated. And it also helps ensure that in the case of a fire, we don't, as a district, lose the whole building and have to rebuild from scratch.
Is there any other comment?
First of all, I'm Plastow. You guys have had.
Approach the mic and stay up to the mic, please.
You might want to pull the mic up.
Everybody can hear me one way or the other.
Okay.
You guys have had a long time to work on this budget. Why, at this point in time, would you come up with another $250,000, right? I mean, so far tonight, we've heard 3 sales pitches that all the good things the school is doing, right? We've heard nothing about the budget. The only thing that came out of the budget was the chairman of the school board, right, who gave a presentation about what the schools are doing, right? But in fact, it's the budget committee's budget, not the school board's budget. And they should be the ones that are presenting it.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who want to speak on the amendment? Okay, there be no other discussion. I'm going to do a voice vote. All those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. No. Okay, we're going to do show of the cards. All those in favor of the amendment to add $250,000 to the warrant article, to the operating budget, raise your cards, please. Kind of keep your cards up because I need my counters. Oh.
Just look first.
Okay, Norm, I'm going to look first. Okay, you can put them down now. All those opposed? Okay. Okay, if you're opposed, keep it up. We're going to count the opposed first. Okay, if you're opposed to adding $250,000 to the operating budget, the no means you're opposed, obviously.
She started seeing this guy. I only got 200 votes up right now. 600 votes. It's going to pass. You think so?
Okay, all those in favor of adding $250,000 as amended to the operating budget, raise your placards.
Rob's arms aren't that. I'm like a, yeah, you know, you're 40 years old. Peter, has he counted us yet? No. The problem is that
Oh my God, I'm sorry.
this was Danville.
Actually prefer a gal.
Can we put our hands down in front?
Yes.
Kate, I see your husband in the back left corner. He's still here. In the door.
I saw that, yeah.
He's at the window.
Yeah, he's at the
You guys are all set right here.
I'm sure the Greens will know. That's Gorman. So that's, there were 6. Gorman isn't here. Okay, so. Yeah, I didn't hear her name when we were introducing ourselves.
Steve, big counter. You get the stage? Stage also. Just want you in the States. Extended system.
Actually, I like being warm. I'm all set to look back south. I was comparing Steve and Nancy. They were both neck and neck for the cost of living. That's the 80% of the states. Yeah, well, they have no income tax. They do have sales tax and property tax. Yeah, the sales tax is kind of high.
Okay. Yes votes for the amendment to add $250,000 to the operating budget. 352. Noes, 289. The amendment passes. So the new Okay, now what we have on the table, on the floor, warrant article number 2, the operating budget. Shall the voters of the Timberlane Regional School District raise and appropriate an operating budget not to include appropriations by special warrant articles and other appropriations voted separately, the amount set forth on the budget posted with the warrant or as amended by the votes of the first session for the purpose set forth therein totaling $67,973,927. Should this article be defeated, the operating budget shall be $68,160,616, which is the same as last year, with certain adjustments required by previous action of the Timberlane Regional School District or by law. Or the governing body may hold one special meeting in accordance with RSA 40, 13, 10, and 16 to take up the issue of a revised operating budget only. Note, warrant article 2, the operating budget, does not include appropriations proposed under any other warrant article. Majority vote is required. Is there a motion to put this on the floor? Motion by Peter? Oh, it's already on the floor. It's open for discussion. Any discussion on the warrant article? Mr. Green.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I move to amend warrant article 2 by striking the amount that was just amended, and I'm sorry I don't have it written down, and replacing it with the figure $64,940,900. The revised article to read as follows, and then I have the article written out. I can bring it to you now.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor to strike the 67,973,927, and I do not have to read the whole article, and we're replacing that with 64,940,900. That's the amendment. Did we get a second? Motion by Mr. Green. Is there a second? Second by Leon Artis. Okay, the amendment's on the floor for discussion. Remember, I'll remind everybody, we have 3 minutes. Okay, please. There we go. Okay, we're going to start. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. Some people have something worth saying. I have something worth silencing. Enrollment has dropped every year since the peak of 2007-08. This is not a blip. We're down 880 since then. We're going to be down another 605 years. Next slide, please. Costs are rising. The budget is up 17%, but enrollment is dropping fast. So per pupil, costs are up 47% since 2007-08. Slide. Another way to look at this is gross per pupil cost, budget divided by the number of students. Current year, our budget is $17,846 per pupil. The proposed budget is $900 higher. The responsible budget I'm proposing is $17,974 per pupil, slightly more than this year. Yet, this is supposedly a catastrophe. Next slide. Okay, declining enrollment. Our staff level has barely budged while enrollment plummets. Here's the enrollment line to the current year. Next slide, red line. The blue line is staffing. 7 years ago, we had 698 staff. This year, 688. Staffing hardly budges while enrollment drops. And by the way, Mrs. Steenson and also Mr. Collins have claimed that over the years we've reduced the number of teachers by 12%. This is a shell game. This so-called reduction is a cosmetic relabeling of staff so that as the number of teachers goes down, other categories such as non-teaching professionals go up. The top line number, 698, 688, hardly changed at all. Next. Let's look at other districts. Timberlane's cost per pupil is over 10% higher than similar districts that are getting stronger academic results than this district. And our cost per pupil jumped almost 9% last year, more than any of the others, and far above average. Now, go back for a moment. Our proposed budget from the district, on its face, a modest increase, less than 1%. But taxes will go up for all 4 towns. Budget, 0.5% up. For Danville, 3.8% tax increase. That's the figures that were distributed to you today. Plastow, 2.5% tax increase. So just because the budget is going up by a fraction, tax increases can be going up significantly. And expenditures are being planned out of this year's surplus, which will further increase taxes. And this huge increase of $900 cost per pupil. My
Mr. Green,
budget.
you have about 30 seconds.
My responsible budget has every penny of expense funding
Please.
that the administration's asked for.
I did tell him. Go ahead.
Thanks. No cuts in transportation, no cuts in athletics, no cuts in academic programs, including advanced placement,
Okay,
arts
Mr.
and
Green.
music programs.
I have to. They said 3 minutes for everybody.
Point of order?
If I recognize somebody else?
Point of order?
Yes, Mr. Artis?
Mr. Moderator, I request that you take control of this meeting, and if there's any more interruptions, that you ask the police to remove those.
Thank you, Mr. Artis. Is there any other? Thank you, Mr. Artis. Thank you. Is there any other comment on cutting the budget from 69 million to 64 million? Is there any other comment? Mr. Artis, why don't you just let somebody else talk and come up, please? Please step aside. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
I would just like to remind everybody.
Mr. Artis, you're out of line. Please step back, and I recognize the lady behind you. I recognize the lady behind you. You will get your chance in a minute. Ma'am, state your name, please.
Cookie Ellis, Sandown.
Thank you.
Could I motion on the budget? Or do
No,
I have
you can't make another amendment. We have one amendment on the floor now, so we have to deal with this amendment first.
Okay,
So we're speaking about reducing the budget by I'll get my calculator going, but by approximately $3 million. So if you have any comment on the reduction, if
I want to raise it.
we can't do it right now.
Oh, then I have to go sit down.
That's correct. Okay. Do we have a sledgehammer? Yes, young man.
How are you? My name is Lucas Appleton. I was elected to represent the students of the Timberlane School District.
Excellent job. Can we speak up on the amendment, please?
My question is directed at Mr. Green. I noticed throughout your presentation, you said the word cost and expense a lot, but I'd like to challenge you as a member of the Budget Committee to think of the students.
I hate to interrupt you, but your comments have to come through here.
Oh, come to you?
And we're talking about you for or against the amendment.
Yeah.
He will answer the question, but if we can, okay? I will. I'm just trying to. Oh, I know. Stop. There I go.
Anyway, my question was whether you consider the students of Timberlane an expense or an investment.
Okay. Mr. Green, you have 3 minutes to answer his question.
Thanks very much, Mr. Appleton. I regard my mission on Budget Committee and in this debate to provide Timberlane School District with the resources to deliver quality education at a reasonable cost to the families of our community. That's looking at you and looking at the students as the object of what we're doing. You are members of families as well, and what we do has to work as education, and it has to be affordable for all of you. Now, we're dealing with numbers, we're dealing with money, that's a fact. We also are dealing with residents who have financial constraints of their own. We've been approached by people who are looking at their retirement and saying that the costs of the district are going to be significantly impacting their plans. Those people are also not a number. So we have to know that we're delivering results that are capable of delivering a quality education at a reasonable cost for everybody. And we look at comparable districts, and if we can put up the slide, that are districts like Bedford, Hudson, Merrimack, that are delivering fine results, in many cases better than Timberlane, and are doing it at a far lower cost. So we have to be cognizant of the impact on our families. We can't trumpet, oh, the budget is just 2.5% up, but the tax increase as well, they turn out to be 3%, 3.5%, 4%. That impacts your families, and ultimately your education.
Thank you. Ne- yeah, I got to recognize the gentleman behind you. Thank you very much.
0.5% on the budget, 2.5% on the taxes.
I just want to
State your name.
William Gannon,
From?
Sandown.
Yes, sir.
I just want to ask a point of order. Can I waive my 3 minutes to someone else to speak under Robert's rules?
No, you can't.
Okay, thank you. That was all.
Mrs. Green.
Okay, Donna Green. I was elected to represent Sandown. You know, Timberlane has many fine teachers and students who make us proud, and a passionate school community, obviously. We're not here to tell you that Timberlane is bad. We're here to give you an honest assessment so we can improve together. The first step is getting control of the budget. My husband and I have been made out to be dangerous enemies to public education, but, you know, that's patently false. But we are enemies of something else. We're enemies of waste and indefensible practices. In the past 14 months, the school board has hired the superintendent's wife as a consultant to introduce Spanish
Okay, Mrs. Green.
in kindergarten.
Mrs. Green, hold on. You're out of order. We are discussing the reducing the budget by $3 million. We're going to be pleasant. We're going to be courteous. And
Mr. Moderator,
talk about the reduction of the $3 million.
It leads to that. I am showing
I'll give
that
you a little
the
leeway.
current
Go ahead.
practice is wasteful.
Go ahead.
Thank you. $50,000 for a Spanish consultant who's Mrs. Metzler. The school board hired the wife of an SAU board member as a teacher. The school board also hired the wife of the chairman of the budget committee as a PR consultant, a completely unbudgeted position and entirely needless. And I honestly cannot say I believe this is the extent of crony hiring. In 2014, the school board dropped the requirement for competitive bids if the existing services continue to meet the needs of the district. This couldn't be more wasteful and irresponsible. Our athletic trainer contract, for instance, did not go out to bid for 28 years until we were hounded by a parent to do so. The result was an excellent new company that provides more services, such as a doctor at football games, for significantly less money. Now, I don't know how many other contracts we have like this. I tried to amend the new policy to say that all contracts had to go out to bid at a minimum of every 3 years. This was defeated 1-8 by the school board. This district also has a practice of withholding financial and staffing information and making elected officials pay for it. In the past 14 months, Arthur and I have had to resort to 13 right-to-know requests, all for public information, and mostly at 50 cents a page. These included monthly revenue and expenditure reports, a year-end financial report, enrollment projections, basic staffing numbers, and Mrs. Metzler's contract. Last year, the district's financial audit was issued 9 months late with an adverse opinion.
Mrs. Green, we're all
Nothing
set.
has been done. So,
Mrs. Green, it's been 3 minutes, please. Mrs. Green. Mrs. Green, thank you. Yes, Mr. Artis. Oh, well, no, he hasn't made a comment. What he was going to do is try to make a motion, so I will entertain his comment. Please, on the reduction of the budget by $3 million.
Yes, and I'd like to point out to everybody that at the end of this school year, the expenses will come in at just about $64 million. We can do everything that we did this year, last year, this coming year, on the $65 million budget that Mr. Green just proposed. There's no reason why this school can't operate on $1 million more that it's going to spend this year for next year, particularly since we're going to be budgeting for 1,000 less kids in the whole district. This is your money. Think about what you're doing.
Thank you, Mr. Artis. Yes, sir.
Yes, I am David Gerns in Plastow. I'm also on the Budget Committee for the town of Plastow. Now, I am opposed to this amendment. I'm opposed to it because, for an administrative, just a simple question, that it was passed without objection by both the Budget Committee and the school board. It had abstentions, but there was no no vote. Okay, to me, I know from my experience, it's a non-trivial activity to create a responsible budget, and these folks worked hard to do it. They came within a few $100,000 of meeting a requirement to level fund it. They did that. Okay, and we're voting only on the top line. So if the cut happens, then then the school board and the budget committee are going to have to figure out how to live on that line. Now, if we cannot trust our elected officials to come up with a responsible budget in the normal process, how can we, the question is, can we trust them to do it and not harm our kids? I want to have a budget that will not harm our kids. Simple as that.
Thank you.
And I'm going to end my presentation with by quoting Nancy Reagan. Just say no.
Yes, Bob.
Robert Zukas, Plastow. I've been in this town for 52 years, and honestly, I'm really tired of being told, we can do it for this, we won't cut your sports, we won't cut this, we're going to build you a pack, and it's only going to cost us this much, and you're going to get everything, only to find out that it doesn't. We have to cut out some seats, we have to cut out this. I'm so tired of everybody wanting to cut the budget and tell us, oh, you're not going to lose any sports programs, it's not going to be pay as you play, you won't lose all your teachers. I watched the same slide that said that retirement's gone up, everything's gone up, that we have no control over, okay? So part of this budget that the board members took so long to put together also includes taking care of the teachers that have raised our kids, that did teach our kids, and made our school what it is, okay? What I didn't see in the slides, okay, was our dropout rate compared to Salem High School, all these others. We have a very low dropout rate. We have a very high going to college 2 and 4 years. We saw it in the slides. The proof is there. What we didn't see is, compared to these other schools, how well are we doing compared to them? And we didn't see that, okay? You did hear that we are #1 in our music program. We've won awards. We've been to Disney. We go everywhere. Not only the music program, our football team, we've heard all the sports here. What our kids get for what money we're spending is phenomenal, okay? And I got to tell you, I can't think of a better town and school district for people to come into. We are already very high rated amongst other towns, and people look to buy houses in this town because of the Timberlane School District, and I don't want to see us cheating our kids like we have in the past.
Thank you, Bob.
Mark Ward from Plastow. I oppose this amendment because it is gutting our system. Do you see these people with these blue shirts out there, Mr. Green? These are the reason why our children are doing so well. It's not about money, it's about their dedication. Children go through the system. Can they go through it with a few less teachers? Maybe so. But if you gut the system by $3 million, you will be taking some of the best teachers in the area away.
Thank you, Mr. Roy. Is there any other? Go ahead, Dennis.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Dennis Heffernan, Plasto. As a member of the Budget Committee, I'd just like to give a little background. We've been meeting for several months. We've met with all the department heads, all the principals, and we have worked hard to develop a sound budget, not only with the taxpayers in mind, but also everything that goes into this district. So I'm hoping that you will vote against this and support the reasonable budget that we have put together over the last several months. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Chris Wallen from Plastow. I have a question on the cost per student. I don't think there was anything presented by any of the three presenters that talked to that, but that's really a hard number. I mean, you got something to compare what we're spending as opposed to what other school districts are spending. So is there anybody here that can speak to that and why ours is so much higher?
Nancy or Dr. Metzler?
Dr.
Whoever.
Metzler, why don't you go ahead?
We have a complete presentation that will be presented by the chair of the Budget Committee following this amendment when you recognize Mr. Grosky. And that goes through all the indicators, all the things, the drivers, a very detailed explanation as to what your money is being spent on, not the excellence that you're getting for it, but how it's being spent and what drove the budget.
Okay, so there is going to be a budget presentation.
At some point, I hope.
Okay, then I'm ahead of myself.
There are intents after each article. Unfortunately, we didn't get to the intent because of the amendment. So we will eventually get to the intent, and I believe it will be the chair, Jason Grosky. Mr. Belo.
Thank you. I'd just like to make a couple points on this cut. It seems like the main school district that the proponents of this budget cut compare us to is Hudson, New Hampshire. And I just want to make a couple points about their school district. They've got about just over a 4% dropout rate. We've got like 0.1, is it? About 0.1 dropout rate. In this school district, all high school students are required to take 3 years of a foreign language to graduate. At Alvern High School in Hudson, they have no foreign language requirements at all. It's just not as rigorous as this place. The last gentleman who was up here asked about cost comparison, and I guess Mr. Grotsky will be going over that in detail, but I want to point out one number, or two numbers. The Department of Education cost per student number for us is $13,500 roughly per student. And one thing we've heard, and all of us have heard over the years, is, well, Pinkerton's cheaper. Pinkerton goes out and says it's $10,000 and change, $10,400 to educate a student in Pinkerton for a year in their high school. But that's their base rate. That doesn't include transportation. It doesn't include special education. That's billed on a student-by-student basis. Just this Sunday, the Lawrence Eagle Tribune published the results of the Dairy School District's deliberative session. In that deliberative session, the Dairy School District said that they're going to be sending 1,730 children to Pinkerton next year at a cost of $33.9 million. That's the check they have to write to Pinkerton. That comes out, that's all inclusive, okay? Now, first time we've seen the number. That comes out to $19,595 per student. Okay? 30 seconds. Done. Done.
I believe there's a motion on the floor to cut the budget to 65
There's an amendment on the floor.
Amendment on the floor?
That's correct.
I would like to point out that if you take the total cost, or the total budget of Timber Lane, divide it by the amount of students going here, you'll find that your cost per child is over $18,000. If this budget goes through, along with the other amendment, it's going to be well over $20,000.
Thank you, Mr.
So
Otters.
think about that.
Yes, ma'am.
My name is Susan Burrell. I live in Danville, New Hampshire, and I would like to oppose the proposed amendment because we are not just supporting our students as they go through Timber Lane academically. I would like to remind you all that we are supporting them emotionally, physically, and in every other developmental area as they go through high school. It has been my blessing to watch my children develop into mature adults that I am truly proud of in great proportion because of the way they were treated at Timberlane and because of the teaching staff that we have at this school. I don't want to see that change.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Brian Lonergan, Atkinson, New Hampshire.
Can you state your name again?
Brian Lonergan, I'm from Atkinson.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. and Mrs. Green, I'd just like you to look right there on the top right at that award we got. Why change what we have going? Why change this awesome school? Why change all the great things we have? Why change the theater program? Why change sports? Why?
Okay, no, hold on. Thank you very much. They'll get to that in a second. Yes, ma'am. You can stand right there, Brian. Yes, ma'am.
Erica Stack, Plastow resident. I strongly, strongly oppose this. I was a student at this school. I worked for this school district and now have 5 children that are going to go through this school. They are our future, but we're also here for our teachers, for our support staff. They are grossly underpaid for everything that they go through and everything that they do. And now we're talking about wanting to cut even more. I respect every person that works for these children, that is up here on this board today for everything that you do. And I just want to say that I can't even imagine having to cut the budget for what the Greens are proposing. So,
Thank you very much. Okay. I can see where the discussion is going. Unless there is something new, I'm going to allow Mr. Green to respond to Brian, and then we're going to move the, I did get a secret ballot, but we're going to end discussion and we're going to move to vote on it. Yes, Mr. Green.
Thank you. There were a couple of quick things I wanted to say. First of all, to Mr. Belo's number of 13,000 and some per pupil cost from Department of Ed, Mr. Belo is referring to numbers that are 2 years old. The per pupil number for last year, according to Department of Ed, is 14,500 per pupil. And the year we're in, the year we're in right now, based on our current budget and spending, it's about 15,500 per pupil. So Mr. Belo is 2 years in the rear view mirror. Now, I'd like to respond to your point. Do you truly believe that Hudson does not support its pupils? Do you truly believe that
Mr.
Bedford
Green,
doesn't support
Mr.
its pupils? This was the point. That
Mr. Green, you're going to respond to Brian's question?
The question is, let's look at that. Why would I want to change that? Do you understand that that award did not have a single element of academic achievement in its rubric? Do you know that? You know that the School of Excellence Award, do you know the rubric for that award of the School of Excellence? When that was announced, anyone can go to the website and see what the evaluation. There is not a single academic achievement element in that award. We can't fool ourselves. We have to look honestly at what we're trying to achieve as a district.
Okay. Will there be no further discussion on the amendment?
Can I respond to that? Can I respond to that, please?
About 15 seconds. Go ahead.
Academics are not all that makes a great school. That's all I have to say about that.
Thank you. The amendment on the floor, it's to cut the budget to $64,940,900. We're going to move this to vote. I do have a secret ballot. Is Christopher True here? You sign this, sir? Thank you. Mr. Green, Mrs. Green, Rosemary Bruno. Rosemary Bruno. She's here. F.L. Riley. Thank you, sir. We had a request for a secret ballot. A yes vote on the secret ballot would approve cutting the budget by $3 million to $64,940,900. A no vote would be kept the same. Hold 1 second, please. Yes, Mr. Grosky. Yes, I do. I have it. Yes, they are. They are. Okay, I declare the polls are open. Use both. Show your voter registration card, both doors. Circle. You can circle yes or no. A yes vote is to cut the budget by $3 million. A no vote leaves it as amended. Again, a yes vote cuts it by $3 million. A no vote leaves it as is. Okay, the amendment was to reduce the budget from $67 million to $64 million. A yes vote was in favor of reducing it. A no vote was against it. The no votes were 517. The yes votes were 100. And we had one blank. The amendment is defeated. If there is no other further discussion on this warrant article, I'm going to place it on the warrant, on the ballot as read. Is there any other discussion? Huh? As amended. I'm sorry. Okay. Because of the, and I've been advised by counsel, because of the so lopsidedness of the vote, that we raised it by $250,000, that passed. We wanted to cut it $3 million, that did not pass. So I have been advised that I can place the warrant article on the ballot as amended. So if there's no further discussion, there be no further discussion on Article number 2. It will be on the ballot as amended.
Mr. Moderator, I'd like to make an amendment. I'd like to make a motion. Michelle O'Neill. I'd like to make a motion to restrict reconsideration of Article number 2.
There's been a motion. Motion on the floor, seconded by Jack. Is there any discussion on limit reconsideration? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. No? Abstentions? The ayes have it.
Mr. Moderator.
Moving on to Article number 3.
Mr.
The Capital
Moderator.
Reserve. I do have one.
May I?
Hold on, Mr. Green. I do have one comment that the presentation for Article number 2, we didn't get to that by the chairman. That is going to be posted on the website, the school website. So if anybody wants to look at the intent and the presentation, that's where it will be located. Moving on to Article number 3, Capital Reserve Fund. shall the voters of the Timberlane Regional School District raise and appropriate up to $250,000 to be placed in the school building construction, reconstruction, capital improvement, and land purchase capital reserve fund, established in 1996, with such amounts to be transferred from the June 30th, 2015 unassigned fund balance surplus available for transfer on July 1st of this year, the sum to come from the fund balance 2014-15 budget surplus, in no amount to be raised by taxation. A majority vote is required, recommended by the school board 7-1, recommended by the budget committee 9-1. Is there a motion to place this on the floor for discussion? Placed on by Sue Sherman. Is there a second?
May I speak to
Jack.
intent?
Nancy. Seconded by Nancy.
I'd like to speak to intent for the board.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
3 minutes.
I'm going to give intent, which helps to understand. Some of these are difficult to understand as written. Article 3, the intent is to move $250,000 from the end of the year surplus into the building's capital reserve fund. This fund was established in 1996 for the purpose of setting aside funds for future capital needs. Money in this fund can only be spent per authorization of the school district voters. Money in this fund is placed into an interest-bearing account. Total appropriation is $250,000. The withdrawal from surplus is $250,000. Amount to be raised by 2015 taxes is $0. As of December 31st, 2014, the balance in this fund was approximately $613,000. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion on Article number 3?
Ann Gerns, Plasto. I'm very curious, what is the purpose for this money? How is it one to make an informed decision about whether or not to draw out monies that are presumably going to be needed to spend on something without stating in the warrant article what you need to spend it on?
Thank you. Nancy?
Would you like to press?
Oh, you're not? Oh, okay. Anybody else? Would somebody like to answer that question?
Rob, you take it. Would you take it? Yeah.
Rob?
Sure. So that money is being put away in a fund, and it can't be touched until a warrant is put before the voters to use it for a specific purpose. It's really just putting money away every year so that we can use it for things. We have used it in the past to renovate kitchens at the elementary schools, for instance.
Okay, it just, the wording on the warrant article sounds as though, okay, we're going to pull this money out of the excess and hold it, and there it'll sit, but nothing about this is being set aside to save money towards capital improvements. It's very muddy. It's hard to understand that.
Got it.
Thank you. Kim?
Kim Paradandel. I do understand that there is no tax impact on the 2015-2016 budget for this $250,000. Where did the $250,000 come from that is in the surplus? Did it come from taxes?
Is that a rhetorical question?
No, I would like an answer to that because I think a lot of people don't understand that. I'm not trying to, what I'm trying to get at is that some people are not aware that money, where on a warrant it says there's no tax impact, that yes there is, because that money is drawn out of the surplus and we've already been taxed in the previous year on that money. So it's an educational point of view. But correct me if I'm wrong.
Would somebody like to answer that?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, I did not say no tax impact. That's not here. It says
Oh, I'm sorry.
amount to be raised by 2015 taxes. We tried, I will tell you, as a board, we spent quite a bit of time at a meeting a couple of weeks ago writing intents to these articles because we know they are confusing. And we tried to make them less confusing with the intents that I'll be reading over the next few articles. And if that's not clear enough, we're happy to further answer your questions. We did not say no tax impact. We said the amount to be raised by 2015 taxes is zero. The withdrawal from surplus is $250,000. So you can infer correctly that there would be $250,000 more in surplus if we did not set this money aside. Does that make sense?
Right. Right.
I hope
just wanted
for everybody.
to clarify
Yeah,
that for
there's
everyone.
no
Thank
monkey
you.
business here. We
No,
want to
no,
be
I'm
very
not saying-
clear.
I am
Okay,
not trying to
questions have
simplify.
to come through here. Thank you, Kim. Yes, Rick.
Rick Blair from Plastow. Remember that it says up to $250,000. That will be at the school board's discretion at the end of this school year to decide, if you vote yes on this, whether to take an entire $250 out of surplus or to only take a smaller amount based on what's available in surplus. So this is not necessarily moving $250,000 automatically. This is giving the school board the authority to move up to $250,000. No more, but it might be less.
Thank you.
Mr. Moderator.
Yes, ma'am.
I would like to respond to that question.
Hold on 1 minute.
I would like to
Yep.
respond to that question.
Hold on a minute. The attorney wants to make a statement, Mrs. Green, and then after her, I'll recognize you.
I just want to correct that. I'm sorry, Mr. Blair, but I have to disagree. What will happen with this, the up to language means that if the district does not have $250,000 of surplus, then whatever amount of surplus it has, up to $250,000, will be placed in the capital reserve fund. If, however, the district has more than $250,000, this is an appropriation of a sum certain, which is required by the Department of Revenue Administration, and that $250,000 will go into the fund. It's not a decision that the school board has discretion over. That will be done automatically. Okay?
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Melissa Coombs from Sandown. Since I missed my chance to talk on Article 2 about this, I was wondering if this could come out of the surplus as far as Sandown not having a sprinkler system in the elementary school. I'm assuming that maybe we're going to discuss it in Article 11, but I didn't want to miss my chance and hope that we could add it into the surplus.
Yes, Mrs. Green?
I can respond to both questions.
Could you respond to her question?
Yes, there is going to be discussion about the sprinkler system in Sandown North coming out of the current year's surplus at a future board meeting. So that is on, our radar.
Okay.
Thank you. Miss.
Then, and with respect to Dr. Farah's question about where the money comes from, it comes from surplus that has been taxed. You were taxed. We got the money. We didn't spend it. And as you were told at the beginning of this session, the surplus goes to the next year's budget as revenue and reduces the amount of taxes that have to be collected in the next budget year. So if you do vote to appropriate $250,000 to the Capital Reserve Fund, it will affect your taxes the next budget year. So it has no tax impact in the current year, in the 2015 taxes, but it does in the next budget year's taxes. I hope
Thank you.
that's clear.
Mr. Cantone, did you?
Yeah, I want to be clear that what we're asking is to have the $250,000 is going to be taken out of fiscal year 2015 actual, and it's going to be put into 2016 budget. Is that
Thank
correct?
you.
Is that correct? Because it doesn't really state it here. We don't know what fiscal year it's coming out of.
Somebody have that answer? He's looking at me. I don't have that answer, but I'm trying to regulate the meeting.
It's available for spending in 2016.
Yeah, it is. Go ahead. Where?
It's on the warrant article, but it really doesn't. It's not available. Go ahead.
Now I got it. Okay. We're going to get into a master class about surplus. Surplus comes from a variety of sources. It doesn't just come from the amount of money that you raise in taxation. Surplus comes also from the fact that you might get additional revenue that you didn't anticipate. It may come from the under expenditure of certain funds, which may or may not have been done through taxation. I will just say this. The language in the article which says no amount to be raised by taxation is language that is recommended by the Department of Revenue Administration. Their model warrant articles concerning fund appropriations to capital reserve funds from fund balance reads this sum to come from June 30 fund balance available for transfer on July 1, no amount to be raised from taxation. The idea being that it's not being raised by specific taxes. Everybody's comments are correct. There's no question about it. If the money went back out of surplus, it would count as a revenue in the next fiscal year, and it might reduce your taxes, but the amount is money that the district already has, and they're holding on to it and putting it into a savings account.
Thank you. Anything new? Step up to the mic.
Phil Sherwood, Atkinson. I'll keep this brief.
Thank you, Phil.
I'm in favor of Article 3. Putting money away in a capital reserve fund is a fiscally responsible way to govern, quite frankly. What it does to the taxpayers in the future, when you're putting money aside, should you need a construction project, large, building a school, it prevents us all from being in the situation of having to jack up taxes to pay for a large project. It's smart to take small amounts of money, put it aside for a major project that might be in the works or might be unforeseen. It's fiscally responsible, it's smart, penny wise, pound foolish to vote this down.
Thank you. I'll recognize one more, Sue Sherman.
Thank you, Phil Sherwood, alumni of Timberlane High School. He's absolutely correct. The way I think about this, and I know many of our communities have these, from Plasto we do, it's putting a little bit away in a savings account, if you want to think of it that way, to prepare for the next event, whether it's sprinklers or a kitchen, or I think it's responsible for us to put a little bit of the surplus away for that. So I absolutely recommend, as Phil does, that you support this article as is.
Thank you. Is there any more discussion for or against warrant article number 3? There being none, it will be placed on the ballot as read.
Mr. Moderator, Michelle O'Neill, I'd like to make a motion to restrict reconsideration of Article number 3.
Is there a second? I'll second it. Dennis? If somebody in the audience that wants to just shout your name so that the clerk can hear it and spell your last name for her, and then I'll recognize you. But yes, thank you. It was seconded by Dennis. Any discussion? There being none, all those in favor to limit reconsideration, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. No? Abstentions? Ayes have it. Moving on, Article number 4. Sandown Central Elementary School kitchen renovation and operational cost. Shall the voters of the Timberlane Regional School District raise and appropriate up to $1,160,544 with $744,299 to be used for the operational cost of Sandown Central Elementary School and $416,245 to renovate the kitchen at the Sandown Central Elementary School, and to further authorize the district to withdraw the said $416,245 from the existing school building construction, reconstruction, capital improvement, land purchase, capital reserve fund. Only $744,299 shall be raised by taxation. A majority vote is required. Not recommended by the school board 6-2, not recommended by the budget committee 10-0. Is there a motion to put it on the floor for debate? Motion by Mr. Green. Is there a second? Second by Nancy.
May I speak to intent?
If that, yes, you may.
Thank you. So briefly, Article 4, the intent is to raise funds to keep Sandown Central School open for the next school year, consisting of $416,245 for the renovation of the school kitchen and $744,299 for operational costs. Total appropriation, $1,160,544. Withdrawal from the capital reserve, $416,245. Amount to be raised by 2015 taxes, $744,299. Thank you.
Mr. Green.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I move to amend Article 4 by striking the figure $1,160,544 and replacing it with the figure $1,000, striking the figure $744,299 in both places it appears and replacing it with the figure $1,000, and striking the figure $416,245 in both places it appears and replacing it with the figure $0.
Do you have that amendment, please? Come down this way, Mr. Green. Okay. What I need, if anybody's going to make an amendment, you need to write the amendment the way I'm going to read it and the way it's going to appear if it does pass as read. But I can't strike numbers. I can't make. It has to be written the way the amendment's going to be. So we can table.
I was just going to say
The amendment's going to read, shall the voters of the Timberlane Regional School District raise and appropriate up to $1,000, with $1,000 to be used for the operational costs of Sandown Central School and to renovate the kitchen at the Sandown Central Elementary School, and to further authorize the district to withdraw zero funds from the existing school building construction, reconstruction, capital improvement, land purchase, capital reserve fund. Only $744,299 shall be raised by taxation. Majority vote required. Is there a second? Second by Mrs. Green. I'll put it on the floor for discussion.
May I
Yes,
say a
Mr.
few
Beal-
words?
let him discuss his motion, then I'll recognize you, Mr. Belo. Yes, Mr. Green.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. And by the way, don't worry, no secret ballot on this. And there is method to my madness. There are two warrant articles pertaining to keeping Sandown Central open, one for $600,000, one for $1 million, including the capital. If the voters vote both of them down, then Sandown Central must close because the district is legally not able to spend money on items that have been specifically rejected by the voter. Yet, both of them require spending more money. If we put this on the warrant with essentially $0, $1,000 token figure, if we put it on the warrant with this amount, then voters have a choice between a $600,000 appropriation, which, by the way, the school board is under no obligation to actually keep Sandown Central open. They can't use the money for anything else. But the warrant article could pass, and the taxes would be collected, the money would be appropriated, but it need not be spent. By having the warrant at $0, essentially, the voters have the option to say, look, we'd like it kept open, we're not providing any additional funding. The school board will have to make a decision in the budget now, just about $68 million, do you see money in there to keep Sandown Central open possibly another year? Some of us have asked for a study. So that will be a real choice. The voters could say, you've got an opportunity to keep it open if you can find the money for it, as opposed to voting both articles down because they both cost money, and then that effect is the voter command to the district saying you're legally required now to close the school.
Thank you. Mr. Bilo.
I actually have a question for our attorney, 2 seats down from me. By zeroing it...
Okay. Speak into the mic. Pull the mic up. And I hear grumblings. I do have a timer going for 3 minutes, so everybody knows that I am keeping an eye on it.
You're reading my time. Okay. I'd just like to ask our attorney, 2 seats down from me, whether zeroing that $416,245 from the existing school building construction, yada, 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 capital reserve fund, changes the intent of this article enough so that it is not a legal amendment.
No, it doesn't.
Okay.
Thank you.
I tried.
Yes, ma'am.
Louise Pajak, Sandown. I just have a question. I'm going to direct it to you, but it's for Mr. Green. So is his intent also to defund Article 11?
Mr. Green, just a real simple answer on that one.
No, I'd like to have that choice to be there.
Thank you.
Then may I ask a follow-up question? If we vote
Sure.
for Article 11, but we zero or go down to 1,000 on Article 4, aren't we hurting ourselves in terms of the kitchen repair? Yes. Because the kitchen money comes out of the reserve? Thank you.
Would somebody like to answer that question? I heard a yes, but I...
Yes.
If that was a question to me, in my opinion, the school will probably need to be closed in a year. I don't think it's wise to invest in it.
Thank you. Yes.
I'd like to point out that at the budget hearing, I asked the question of the school board why they hadn't voted to close the school. I think we've all heard their answer. But in that course of the conversation, it came out that they took the $744,000 out of the bottom line budget that would have been for the operating costs of Sandown Central. When I pushed the question as to how could they open it again if they'd taken the money out, in a roundabout way, they finally came out and said we'd have to find it someplace else in the budget.
Okay. You got to focus your comment to the $1,000 to the amendment, not everything else, but to the amendment.
Why this makes sense, the way it's written, is because they know they already have the money in the budget to keep that school open whether this passes or not. So if this number is not changed, and it stays as it was written originally, it's a double hit at the taxpayers. They've already got the money, they've taken it out, they want that money put back in at taxpayer expense, and that will go to our tax bill, and they want more money up to $1,160,000.
No, that's not what they're asking now. What we're asking right now, Mr. Artis, is speak to the amendment, reducing the $1,160,544 to $1,000. Speak on the amendment, or let the gentleman behind you come up and talk at the mic.
It is the prudent thing to do so that the taxpayers do not get hit twice for the same expense plus the addition of the kitchen.
Thank you. Mr. Goldman.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. John Goldman from Sandown. And I promise I really tried to not say anything at all tonight, but so as we talk about this amendment and we talk about Mr. Green's amendment, one of my concerns, I'll get right back to the amendment, but we talk about the budget is only going up 0.58%, or whatever that number was less than 1% for the year. And that sounds great, except it's going up that amount, only 0.58%, and we're still closing a school. So as far as Mr. Green's amendment is concerned, we keep using the words closing a school. We're not closing a school. Let's face it. We've already been told that if that school gets closed...
Okay, let's stay focused on the amendment and not about a school closing. We're not even there yet.
The amendment is to basically defund that school, change the way that warrant article is written to fund the school. So we've already been told that if that school does get closed, that we are going to put special programs and put something in that building. So we're not closing a school. The district is going to reoccupy a school that's been closed.
Okay, again,
So,
Mr. Gold,
If I could just, in closing, my
on the,
last
on the amendment,
maybe my last statement.
on the amendment,
No.
then you can't. Ma'am?
At least I'm honest.
Thank you for being honest. At 10:30. Yes, ma'am.
Marianne Springer, Danville. This is really quick, because when the amendment was read, I think the last part, only $744,299 shall be raised by taxation, was still in there,
That's what it says in the amendment.
and I'm confused by that.
Okay. So your question is only the $744,299 shall be raised by taxation. Okay, if you would, you can sit down, you don't have to stand up, but speak into your mic.
So the 744,000 should be 1,000.
Okay,
To
so
be
you
raised
want
by
to,
taxation.
you have to withdraw your motion. And Mrs. Green, you have to, hold on, this is real simple, real simple. Withdraw your motion. Do you want to withdraw your second so that he can amend this?
Thank you for being astute.
The motion's going to read, the 1,160,544 will be 1,000. The 744,299, the first one to be used for the operational cost, will be 1,000. The 416,245 will be 0. The 416,245, 0. On the last sentence, only $1,000 shall be raised by taxation, a majority vote required. And then seconded by Mrs. Green. This is on the floor for discussion. Yes, Jack.
I'd just like to point out a couple things.
Speak up.
The first one is, no one's ever said that before. Just because Mr. Green's assured us that he won't amend Article 11, that doesn't mean that somebody else will not. Relative to the kitchen, one of my fellow board members said it's the kitchen equipment is safe. It's safe because it doesn't work. But that's true. It's deplorable, it's disgusting, and I couldn't see if the will of the voters was to keep that school open, one, how we as a school board would circumvent the will of the voters. I would never be for that. And how you would keep that school open without the kitchen. So with that said, to Mr. Otis' point, Mr. Moderator, you're not double dipping. The $744,000 is most certainly in the budget. The problem is it would have to be taken from something else. So there's no double dipping there, then that's very misleading.
Thank you, Jack. Something new to add, Mr. Goldman? Please approach the mic.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. So I rethought what I was talking about, but
Of course you did.
the motion, or excuse me, the warrant article is to fund the school, fund the operational costs of Sandown Elementary. The motion obviously would zero out or bring it down to $1,000. I'm not in favor of that motion. I am in favor of keeping the school open and keeping the warrant article in theory as written and then possibly amended to take $142,000, I think it is, for the principal that's already in the budget. That's what I would want to see done. I would not be in favor of the motion. What we're talking about is one of the top 30 elementary schools, and I think it's right there on the wall. It's one of the top 50 in 2015.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the amendment? Any further discussion on the amendment? Yes, Mrs. Sherman.
I'm going to advise you to vote against this amendment. This amendment gives you an opportunity to do something pretty negative. The warrant as it's written gives you an opportunity to voice your vote on whether that school, which I believe should stay open, in my opinion, and have the kitchen that it deserves like every other school in our district has. I absolutely ask you, do not vote for this amendment.
Thank you. Anything new, Mrs. Green?
I too are in favor of keeping Sandown Central open for at least 1 year so we can do a proper study. Because I fear that with Sandown's elementary enrollment will increase in 9 years, and at that point it's going to be greater than what it is now, and I'm not confident that Sandown North can accommodate all those students. So this amendment gives the voters an opportunity to choose between 2 different options so that the school has a chance of staying open. And I think it's not a good idea to put a new kitchen in a school that might close in a year or 2. That is just a tremendous waste of taxpayer money.
It's going to get shot
Thank
down.
you.
I'll take 2 more comments. Bob and then Jack, and then I'm going to move the
I just had a question about Mrs. Green's comment. Did you say that you don't want to see it close because enrollment is going to go up and the North School could not handle that?
That's what I'm afraid of.
Okay, well,
Okay.
didn't I just, wait a minute, I want to clarify this. Didn't I just hear or see a chart where enrollment is dropping? So is enrollment dropping or is it going up? And that's all I'm trying to find out.
Okay.
Because I'm getting 2 stories here. So are we going up in enrollment or are we going down because your pie chart shows? That's all I have.
Thank you, Bob.
In fact, both are correct.
There was, hold on, you haven't been recognized. There was somebody else that was going to make a Jack, and then we're done.
Mr. Moderator, it has been suggested that we leave the school, and I'm not saying the school should stay open or stay closed, but it's been suggested we should leave it open for a year to do a study for basically for moving 65 students. But yet, on cutting the budget over close to $3 million, there was no request for a study. So I find...
Okay, Jack, on the amendment. If there's
Yeah.
nothing
So-
further, I'm going to move the,
Okay, that's fine.
move the amendment. I'm going to do, obviously, a voice. All those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye.
Mr. Moderator.
All those opposed to the amendment signify by saying no. No! Any abstentions? The amendment fails.
Mr. Moderator.
The
I did not get recognized to respond to that.
Okay.
I would like to respond to that question.
Point of order. I've heard enough, so I'm moving it on, Mrs. Green. Article number 4. Are there any other discussion on Article number 4? Anything new on Article number 4? There being none, Article number 4 will be placed on the warrant article on the ballot as read.
Mr. Moderator. Mr. Cantone.
Yes, Jack. Cantone. I'm sorry, Mr. Cantone.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. When Dr. Metzler first came to the Budget Committee and announced that he and the school board were of the consensus that they would close Sandown Central, it was kind of a shock to me. I've acquired and I have merged companies and I have had to close facilities.
Hold on. Mr. Cantone, we're moving on to Article number 5. We're
I'm
placing
sorry?
Article number 4 on the amendment on the ballot as read, so we're moving on to Article number 5. Do you have a question somewhere?
You did? Never mind.
Thank you. Moving on to Article number 5, Sandown North Elementary School Playground. Go ahead.
I would
State your name.
David Gerns. From
Thank you, David.
I would like to commit you to consider the possibility of making an adjustment to the order in which these amendments are being, or these articles are being presented. We are running late. There's 2 articles, Article 10 and Article 11, which are very important to many folks here. And I would recommend that if we could move these 2 up ahead, not to diminish the importance of the others, but just to get these two important articles considered. And so I make a motion that we make that change.
And I would
Okay.
second that.
There,
Second.
that can be done. We just did this in Plasto at our deliberative session. There's a motion to move Article 10 and Article 11 to the next articles to be read. Is there a second? There's a second by a name? Thank you, Lee. Any discussion on moving Article 10 or Article 11 to be read next? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Noes? No. All those in favor for aye votes, please hold up your placards. It's too close to count. Okay, no.
I know they are.
Okay.
Do we have 10? Do we have 11?
All those opposed, hold up your placards. Okay, the ayes have it. Next article to be read will be Article number 10, amend Articles of Agreement on warrant petition by Sean O'Neill and others to see if the Timberlane Regional School District shall replace Article 5 and 6 from the April 30th, 1964 agreement to read: the operating and capital expenses of the Timberlane Regional School District payable in each fiscal year shall be apportioned at a rate so each pre-existing district pays the same local school rate of taxation based upon the equalized valuation as most currently available as determined by the State Tax Commission. All forms of aid and local school impact fees from each pre-existing district will be applied to reduce the operating and capital expense before appropriament. Article number 6, repealed. A two-thirds majority is going to be needed. This is not recommended by the school board 8-0. It's not recommended by the budget committee 7-0. Is there a motion to place this on the floor for discussion? Motion by Sean O'Neill. Is there a second? Second by Kim, your last name? Thank you. I'll put it on the floor for discussion. I'll recognize
Testing.
my assistant timekeeper would be Mrs. O'Neill. I'm making sure she's being honest.
I think I'm starting at 2 minutes then.
Is this in the handout that people can follow along also?
Let's go.
If you want to start, Mr. O'Neill, that would. Okay, please.
It always works beforehand. There you go. Don't demontage.
Okay, if you can start reading, maybe we can.
Mr. Moderator, while we wait, could I respond to that question?
No, you may not.
Thank you.
Okay,
Testing.
we're going to start.
All right, thank you. This warrant article was put together. It's been, in 1964, the districts came together to form a school. Everybody needed everybody in this town. I mean, in this district. What this article does is it looks to change the way that we fund our school. Instead of doing the current implementation of an ADM and an EPV component, it comes up with a different philosophy. And it's so we came together as one entity to form the Timberlane Regional School Districts in 1964 for a common goal. In a similar manner, Rockingham County was formed by the various towns that compose it to support a common goal. Portsmouth and Rye pay the same county tax rate as Atkinson, Danville, Plastow, and Sandown. That rate is derived by taking the operating budget and distributing it across all towns based upon their equalized assessed values. There is no function in determining that rate of the number of patrons at the Rockingham County Jail or the number of beds occupied at the Rockingham County Nursing Home for a particular town. It is one homogeneous entity. Now I'm breaking down here the various amounts for our school district. 67 million was the operating budget, 9 million is the revenue that we had in surplus, 58 million was what needed to be raised, 2.5 million for capital improvements, for capital expenditures, left 55 million. 144,000 was the sum of all local school impact fees for all 4 towns, left an amount of 55 million. That's the breakdown of the capital expenditures. This is the amount of the various towns received from the different grants, a total of $17 million. What this would do, this implementation, would take that $17 million and apply it against the budget from all towns. This is the ADM numbers. This is the equalization numbers. There's $2.5 billion of all 4 towns in the assessed value. That 144,000 is the sum of all the school impact fees. This is where it really breaks down. So when you get down to the third line is the 58 million. Then you apply the $17 million of total aid that the state provides. 144,000 is the sum of all the local school impact fees, leaves $40 million. $40 million, and to raise over $2.5 billion in assessed value comes out to be a tax rate of $15.93 for every buddy that would receive at the local rate on their tax rate for all 4 participating towns.
That's 3 minutes.
Yeah, I know.
Thank you. Mr. Artis.
What this really means is they're going to change it so that your tax dollars are going to be based on the assessed value of your home only. It has nothing to do with the amount of kids that every town sends to school. What that will do to your particularly if you live in Atkinson and Plastow, that's going to drive your tax rate up 14% on the school section of your tax bill alone. In Danville and Sandown, it'll take their taxes down by 13 and 12% respectively. So in Atkinson, if you own a $300,000 home, your taxes will go up $750 for that one change alone. Think about it. You're sending less kids to the school, and we've supported Danville and Sandown since 1965. Now they want to take that away from us. Where they're sending more kids, we're sending less, and make you pay for it. Think very carefully before you vote for this. That's why the school board and the budget committee doesn't recommend it. It takes fairness out of the equation and makes you pay more.
Thank you. Jack?
I am truly against this article. I want to give you some numbers. 50 years ago, the Articles of Agreement were written, and our founding fathers to this article, they did it pretty fair. 95%, basically 95% of your tax rate is based on ADM, or the amount of percentage of students each town has going to the school. The other 5% is on equalized evaluation. Over the course of that 50 years, Atkinson paid over $114 million more than the town of Danville. If you look at equalized evaluation, a $300,000 home, comparable home, 3 bedrooms, virtually the same house, is $374,000 in Atkinson. So from that perspective, it's extremely unfair. Mr. Artist was right. A house, a $300,000 home in Atkinson would incur under this amendment, under this article, $758 in additional taxes, and an equal home in Danville's would go down $1,300, roughly $1,300. Now, your tax rate is basically set by how you manage your town. Plastow made a decision that they were going to have commercial and industrial. Atkinson follows a master plan to the T. We have a lot of things that offset our tax rate. Other towns run their and manage their towns the way they see fit. But if you're not going to have those offsetting that revenue to offset your tax rate, that's solely your decision as a community and as a town. Now, in the town of Atkinson, we have 16% seniors that have paid into this district for 50 years and have willingly almost supported every single thing presented to them from the school district. In the year 2020, we're going to be up to 33%. These are the people that borne the burden, that have managed their town properly, and now are being asked, because they've done everything right, to really cover for the other towns that need to probably look inward and look at best practices from the surrounding towns and start managing themselves a little bit better. So I am adamantly opposed to this. It's extremely unfair to Plastow and Atkinson, who have borne the burden of managing this school district. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. Yes, sir.
Chris Wallen from Plastow. I would like to commend you for what you just said. The way I'm reading this is Danville and Sandown were very, very happy with the way the thing is distributed now, when they were on the getting end. But now things have shifted, and their expenses, the number of kids that they're sending to the school, are going up compared to the other Atkinson and Plastow, right? So you can't have it for 20 years. We liked it because we were getting an advantage, and now, oh, let's change it because it's no longer an advantage to us.
Thank you. Peter Belo.
You better start Michelle on the timer. It may take 3 minutes.
Microphone.
Sorry. Okay, I've got a couple points to make. The first is that if we look at how many students come out of each town today and how much each town, not each house, pays into the school district, we would find that Atkinson and Plastow already pay a significantly higher amount per student, on the order of like $3,000, than either Danville and Sandown. If this goes through, Plastow is worked really hard on having a commercial and industrial zone. In fact, our first industrial commission to look at getting businesses in was formed in 1956. Okay, we've been doing this a long time. If another town wants to be the Shire with their hobbits, that's great, but I, for one, don't want to pay for it, okay? But I want to make another point, and it's not against Sandown or Danville in any way, but the reason we're here and looking at this tonight is the pain of some of the smaller towns. And this kind of pain is being felt all across the state. And quite frankly, with all deference to the several state representatives who are here tonight out of the goodness of their heart, this whole thing is caused by our legislature and governor for not having an effective taxation system for the whole state. Okay? So this is trying to band-aid a fundamentally flawed system that our legislatures will not fix.
Thank you. There was Jason Groschke.
Thank you. Jason Gorski from the town of Atkinson. This is a subject that's been discussed a good amount over the course of the last several months. It actually started with a presentation at a school board meeting to try and start the conversation about whether we need to change the way our 4 towns contribute towards paying Timberlane's budget. And the presentation that you have here tonight is even more drastic than what was discussed back then. If there is a need to change the way we pay for Timberlane, I think that's something we should all be looking into and pushing our leaders to investigate and come together on. I'm concerned, and too much of this is going on in this school district, that there are things that are hoisted upon voters without taking the proper time to dig into things. We're going to cut $2.8 million from a budget, but we're not going to tell you with any specificity where it comes from. This is something that the 4 towns of Timberlane collectively should have or should still study together, make presentations to the body that are thought out with input from all of the towns. I was elected to the budget committee by voters of the town of Atkinson, and I appreciate that. But I tell you, when I sit and I think and I make decisions, I don't do so thinking about what is solely in the best interests of Atkinson. I'm looking out for what I think is right and appropriate for all of Timberlane, and I'm concerned over the course of the last several years, and we see it tonight, we saw the same thing at this time last year, how divisive these meetings turn out to be because we're not taking the time to work together. And something like this, as important as something like this, is something that we should all be looking at and working on collectively before we hoist something as drastic as this. I would encourage the membership from all 4 towns, when you go to the voting booth, to vote against this. Thank you.
Kim? She hasn't spoke yet. You have, so yes.
I'd like to give a little historical perspective on this because it sounds like everybody thinks this is the first time this sort of warrant has been brought forward. This has been attempted at least twice in the past. I'm not saying based on an EPV versus an ADM or what the percentage is, but I just want to let you know that this was tried, and I'm not saying it can't be tried again as a group or a school board. Mrs. Delfino made a point when this was discussed at the school board. This is not something that Danville is trying to do for Danville. This is something that Danville feels is going to ultimately help the school district by making it such that the small towns feel like they're going to be able to somehow manage, even though we can't move ourselves to 125 or the Haverhill border, that we're going to be able to manage to pay the taxes. I know because I have people coming to me as a select woman saying that I'm losing my house, I can't afford these taxes, I need to move. So we're not trying to do this to be short-sighted as just a Danville thing. Every year, the school budget gets voted down in Sandown and Danville, pretty much. And when you look at the proportion of people that we have in the towns compared to the bigger towns, those people really don't feel like they have much of a say. We're just trying to get some sort of say and try to make it a little bit more equitable. I can't say that this is the way to do it, but we want to move this district forward, just like everybody else does. And our town can't really do that right now with the tax burden that's on them. And we can't go back 50 years and blame it on the last 50 years of planning.
Thank you. Go ahead, Sean.
Yes, couple things. One is that, you talk about the economic impact on Plastow on 125. Those businesses come together not just due to the demand and market growth of Plastow. Home Depot was brought in there due to the economic growth of towns of Danville, Sandown, and other surrounding communities. People patronize all these various businesses that are all up and down the 125 corridor and in Atkinson. So those businesses exist with the help of the surrounding communities. And I do agree that what Peter did say about the state legislature funding that, basically, if you go back and you look at the numbers, only about 16% of the dollar amount that is actually provided by the state to the school district is not generated locally by us. And yet for that 16% donation that they give us, we turn around and have all the checks and balances that we have to turn around and report into them. It might actually be economical for us to just say, keep your 16% and leave it all local control right here. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anything new to the article? Because if not, I'm going to place it on the, okay. Dennis?
Just to speak to Mr. O'Neill's point about Home Depot he used as an example, or Walmart. Yes, people from Danville, Sandown, and surrounding towns do use that. But Plasto is the one who has those stores in there. We're the ones who have to pay for the increased police department, increased on our fire department. So we're the ones who choose to have that in there to help with our taxes. Thank you.
Two more comments that would come from, and then Jack, go ahead.
One thing that everybody here wants to consider is who turns out. If Danville and Sandown turn out in numbers, and Atkinson and Plastow do not, and Danville and Sandown vote their pocketbooks, this could pass. So I would encourage all of you, whether you're from Danville, Sandown, Plastow, Atkinson, talk to your friends, your neighbors, anybody that will listen to you that's a voter in any one of these towns, and
Leon?
make sure this gets voted
Leon?
down.
Thank you. Jack, your last comment?
Yep. You know, I just want to kind of tag on what Jason said a little bit earlier. I represent the residents of Atkinson, but when I look at the children, I do not make a distinction from town to town to town. I don't think anyone on this board or anyone on that committee does. And just remember that there are a lot of unfunded mandates that come down from the state. So I think the state bears some responsibility on helping us, you know, make this palatable for the residents and for the smaller towns. This is not a turf war, and that is not, I think, we all are in agreement that this is not a turf war. It's something we've got to work through. But I do represent the taxpayers, but the children in my mind are all one.
Thank you. Would there be no further discussion unless there is something new? If not, I will cut you off and we're going to place it on the ballot as read. Go ahead, Arthur.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. People may assume that as a person who's on the committee representing Sandown and as a person who's concerned about district costs, that I would automatically be in favor of shifting the burden of taxation to the other towns. That is not my opinion, and I wanted to go on record that although I disagree with the analysis that Mr. Sapien and Mr. Bealo have offered, I also am opposed to this redistribution. I don't think our solution is by figuring out how somebody else can pay for it, whether it's another town or whether it's the state. We're all the taxpayers. We have to figure out how to deal with the costs we pick for ourselves.
Thank you. With nothing new, Article 10 will be placed on the ballot as read. Article number 11. Continue operation of Sandown Central on warrant petition by Sean Friel and others. Shall the voters of the Timberlane Regional School District raise and appropriate up to $602,528 for the continuing operation of Sandown Elementary School as an elementary school. This warrant will be void if warrant article Sandown Central Elementary School operational costs and kitchen renovation passes. Majority vote is required. It's not recommended by the school board 7-1, not recommended by the budget committee 5-0-5. Is there a motion to place this on the floor for discussion? Motion by Donna Green. Is there a second? Peter Bealo. Is there anybody here to make a presentation? Is there any discussion on it? Leon, let me take the next gentleman first. Sir?
Hello. Sean Fraley. I'm from Sandown. I'm going to keep it short because I'm tired like most everybody else here. But I have to say one thing. I just came in from New York. I've spent the week in New York, and I was in enemy territory after the big game on Sunday, and not one shout-out for the Patriots, so go Patriots.
They're as tired as we are.
Yeah. So anyway, on this particular article, why I put this forward is because I wanted to give the voters a choice whether to keep the school open. I do believe that we need to put some thought and concentration around whether or not we want to keep the school open, whether or not a consolidation makes sense. Maybe it makes sense to close the school, maybe it doesn't, but we need to review that and properly study that. The voters have a choice between 3 different articles, between Article 4, 11, and 12, to decide and let their voices be heard, let their voices be heard to the school board. And I do hope that everybody turns out. And Mr. Grosky, to you, I couldn't have said it better, right? We cannot do things quickly and without deliberation. So I hope that you use this, that your words, really, to deliberate on Sandown Central. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Leon.
If the Budget Committee had taken that philosophy before they took out the money to operate Sandown Central, we wouldn't be having this conversation. But to turn around and try to add another $602,000 to keep it open after they already took the money out, saying it's not a viable school, then we shouldn't be having this discussion. I'm against this, adding this, and I'm not going to make the motion to zero it out because I already know what it will be, but this is a foolish warrant article to put in there. The school committee should have taken the vote to close it. They didn't, and now they're trying to get a third hit at our taxes.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Paul Rogers, Sandown.
Paul Rogers.
Sandown. One of the previous items, one of the persons asked, how do you know what it's going to be like in 9 years? Well, those children now are probably 1, 2, 3 years old. And in 9 years, we already know what the demographics are and will be. So why would we want to trash a building when we're going to need it in 9 years and we know so?
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Good evening. Chris True, Sandown. I have 2 questions, Mr. Moderator. Maybe you could direct them to anyone who might be able to answer them. I have read that it has been said that if the voters voted to keep Sandown open, the administration wouldn't necessarily have to abide by the will of the voters. And I was just curious if the school board would also back that opinion up, that they don't have to abide by the will of the voters. Also, it's my impression.
How about we deal with one question? Does anybody have an answer for that one? I'm looking maybe from somebody from the administration.
Well, I can't tell you, I can't speak for the rest of the board, or you may see a different board up here. But I can tell you I would never vote against the will of the voters.
Thank you.
So I'll speak to that. So you are correct. The law is that if the money is added back to the budget, no board is required to use that money for that purpose. That's the law. What this board would do is up to this board, and honestly, by that time, we'd have a new board. It's after the election. It is very, very difficult for me to tell you how a new board is going to vote on that. But you are correct, that's the law.
Thank you. Your second question?
Is there a school board policy that before a school is closed, a very thorough evaluation of that closure will be made? And if so, where is that review?
Dr. Metzler.
I'd be happy to. Good evening, Mr. True. There is a school board policy, and a report has been shared with the school board, and it met all the criteria that the school board policy asked for in terms of the retiring of a facility. There's some action that needs to be taken by the school board. They could direct the administration in any way direction that they see fit. And so we've shared the information with the school board, and we await direction.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Mrs. Green had a question, I think. Right?
Yes, sir.
My name, can Mrs. Green go? Or?
No.
Okay.
I'll
William Gannon, state rep from Sandown. I'm just a simple country lawyer, and I don't have all the school experience that you guys have. But I see, just simply, I see the school that was, Mr. Ralph has the school that's 37th in the state, almost top 10%. Sandown North, 20th. These are our best schools, the two best schools. You're tinkering with something that's working. It'd be like you're taking Tom Brady and telling them to throw this out of their arm. You have two working schools that are the best in the state. I would think would be trying to pull Danville and Pollard from 150th and 170th on the NEPCAC test. I want to pull them up. I want to add things there. I don't want to tinker with Sandown's working. You have a school that's 20th in the state. It's up there with Bedford in the top. You have the other school, Ralph's school, is 37th. And you're taking a shot at, you don't know what the outcome is going to be. I was talking with Peter and Jack earlier, and they're like, well, you don't know for sure that adding this increase to 145 students is going to hurt the kids. Well, I think we pretty much do know that it isn't going to be good, Jack.
Nobody stopped.
I thought that's what we had said.
No.
Okay,
Continue.
you can clarify later. Anyways, my thoughts are we got two of the best schools in the state. If it's working, don't tinker with them, leave them alone. That's my thoughts. But I want to thank Dr. Metzler had met with me. I like him. I think he's on the right course. You're helping the sports that we wouldn't have a hockey team that my son's playing on without you right now. So I'm not in opposition to everything. It's just this one thing.
Thank you.
I like most of what you're doing, just this one little area.
Thank
so
you.
I'm with you 95%.
Thank you.
And Donna, thank you for trying to save us
Thank
money.
you. Mrs. Green.
Could I defer to Mr. Cantone for the moment because he did have his hand up before me?
Well,
Mr.
thank you, Mr.
Cantone.
Green. Thank you. This will relate also to Article 4, so I'll try to squeeze it in here on Article 11.
Well,
But does,
we're
it does
talking about
pertain
Article
to 11,
number
no, it
11,
pertains to-
so let's stick
it
to
pertains
Article number 11.
It does. I just want to say that Dr. Metzler came to the Budget Committee, and he did a very good job of causing us to believe that the closing of Sandown Central was strategically the right initiative. I asked Dr. Metzler if he was proposing the closing of the school simply as a reaction to the downward pressure on the budget, and he assured us that that was not the case. He assured us that the savings that would come from closing the redundant Sandown Central would give the school system the opportunity to spend more funds on other programs and initiatives. He also assured us that the school committee had, the consensus of the school committee was that that Sandown Central should be closed. I didn't understand if the school board's consensus was that it should be closed, why the school board put this Article 4 in. I know we're talking about 11. And I was told that because the school board wants to put the decision in the hands of the voters. Okay, I understand that. But I think you have to go the rest of the way. I think the voters would like to make informed decisions. I heard Mrs. Sherman say at a school board meeting that there was a lot of anxiety in the region regarding this closing. I think a lot of the reason behind that anxiety is the lack of information that has been disseminated. So, if I could be presumptuous enough to consult with you, it would be that sometime between now and the vote, you should put out some documented brief that gives the voters the economic and logistic considerations that you took into account to rationalize the closing. Because wouldn't it be a shame to spend $416,000 on a kitchen to keep a white elephant open that costs us $744,000 a year every year? And that decision gets made because the voters don't understand the thought process that the school board has employed to make the decision not to recommend this article. I think the voters need information.
Thank you, Mr. Cantone. Mrs. Green.
Thank you. I'd like to correct something that Dr. Metzler said. He said that the school board was given a study that fulfilled the policy requirements. In my opinion, that is not correct. The retirement of facilities policy has 8 requirements, and by my count, we didn't get at least 3 of them. One of them being alternate use of the building, transportation factors, adequacy of site, location, traffic patterns, and other environmental conditions. There's a lot of information the school board has not yet been presented with concerning the potential closure of the school. And I agree with Mr. Cantone that the public certainly should be given a very complete and thoughtful report before a community school of such renown and excellence is closed. And as for the population projections, Sandown elementary school population is going to be larger than it is now in 8 years. In 2023, the population is projected to be higher than it is right now. The district's population continues to decline, but Sandown's elementary population will start to increase.
Thank you. Any other further discussion? Yes, Dr. Metzler.
Just a point of clarification. You know, the retirement of a facility is the potential closing of it completely. It does not mean that the district will not have additional use for that facility, and that's a school board decision. So the school board will be deciding, and again, will be providing the direction. They have all the information that they need to move 2 grades, 137 students, which is really more like 65, and the question really was, can they fit? Just a question, can they fit? We researched it with the principals and the administrative staff, and they said the answer to that question is yes, we could do it. We'd be at about 90% capacity at Sandown North. It's not ideal, but it can be done. Again, school board decision. And then the school board will decide what to do with that facility if it has additional use for the district, like preschool, which would be a majority, and potentially part of kindergarten, which would be a majority of Sandown students. So it would still be a Sandown school, but there's a whole list of things for the school board to decide, and what they're looking for is input from the voters. That's what they're hoping that they can do through several of these warrant articles, and that will help drive the board's work into March and April, and then we can decide as a community, as a cooperative school district, not as one person telling everyone else what to do, but a cooperative school district, local control, what is the best we can do for our kids in our 4 towns. Thank you.
Thank you. There be no further discussion on this. Article 11 is going to be placed on, if you have something new, go ahead.
Melissa Coombs from Sandown again. I just want to understand, as far as the budget goes, from my understanding, you're going off of a 3-year-old budget in order to merge the schools and what that would affect. The 25% of Timberlane is coming from Sandown, and because we have the excellent schools we have there, that is coming into Timberlane, and you're getting excellent grades from that as well. You're, like they said, you're messing with something that is really working well with us. Why not work on the other schools and changing that to smaller class sizes and making those schools better?
Okay, I'm gonna recognize Jason, Josh, Jason, the other one.
I'll go by anything at this point. So I just wanted to clarify that if Article 11 and Article 4 are both defeated, that we cannot open or remain, that Sandown Central cannot remain open.
Doctor, somebody understand that question?
I can rephrase it for you. If both Article 11 and Article 4 are defeated, can Sandown Central remain open?
The answer is no. There's a law that bars the transfer of appropriations to a purpose that has been defeated by the body. So if a purpose in a separate warrant article is defeated, It's the so-called no means no law. And that law indicates that money cannot be transferred to or expended for a purpose that is defeated by the voters on a separate warrant article. So if both Articles 11 and 4 are defeated, the school board could not keep Sandown Elementary School open.
Well, I just want
Okay.
I want to make this clear that I spoke to a lot of people in Sandown. We're not against closing Sandown Central. We want to see a plan that's accurate. We want to know what's going to happen. We want the time to take to do this right. We have students, from what I understand, the special ed students that are going to be uprooted. The ones that need structure the most are going to be moved, and we don't know where they're going to. We have Sandown North, who you're going to add another 70 to 100 students without a sprinkler system or a big enough playground, which I know that's going to be on the article as well. There's a lot of issues and a lot of questions we don't have answers to, and we want the time to have it done right.
Thank you.
That's all we're asking.
With nothing new being added, we're going to place Article 11. Will be placed on the ballot as read. We're going to move to Article number 5.
Mr. Moderator?
I have something new to say.
Sir, no, I'm placing Article number 11 on the ballot. I haven't heard anything else for or against it. I've heard a lot of comment, but nothing that would be substantial to Article 11 being placed on the warrant. We're going to move on to Article number 5. Article number 5, Sandown Elementary School Playground. Shall the voters of the Timberlane Regional School District raise and appropriate up to $90,000 for the expansion and upgrade of the Sandown North Elementary School Playground? Majority vote required. Recommended by the School Board 701. Not recommended by the Budget Committee 811. Is there a motion to place this on the floor for discussion? So moved. Moved by Jack. Is there a second? Second by Greg Spiro. Is
May
there
I speak to intent? All right, this is very brief. Thank you. So Article 5, to raise funds to expand the playground at Sandown North. The total appropriation, $90,000. Amount to be raised by 2015 taxes, $90,000. Thank you.
any other discussion? Yes, Mrs. Green.
I move to amend this article to state $63,000. Could you remind me? I seem it's 5.
So you're going to make a motion to change the $90,000 to $63,000? Okay. I do need it. You can hand it down. There's a motion for Article number 5 to change the dollar amount from $90,000 to $63,000 by Mrs. Green. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Green.
The reason I made this amendment is because at a school board meeting, an actual estimate was given to us to show that the project actually will only cost $63,000. And I certainly wouldn't want to put it to the voters with an inflated price. That isn't to say I'm in favor of this project. I just want the warrant article to be a truthful representation of the actual costs.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Belo.
Unfortunately, what Mrs. Green has failed to mention in her analysis was that number was an informal quote. I won't even call it a quote. It was an informal estimate by one vendor. So for somebody who's very interested in having multiple bids, I think it's very short-sighted to approve this amendment based on one, back-of-the-envelope number. I'm hoping it comes in at 63 or 64 or 65 at the end of the day, but nothing against contractors, but when they start taking close looks at things, to make a formal bid, all of a sudden things come out of the woodwork. The details have to be paid for at that point. So I would recommend against this.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Eric Byron, Sandown. When I first spoke to the school board on January 8th of this year about the need for expanded playground space at Sandown North, it was in reference and in the context of consolidating the two schools. The recommendation that I made was that the playground be expanded to have field space and open space for the larger kids to do activities such as kickball and football, to be more in line with what they already have at Central. The plan that was presented at the school board meeting later at the cost of $65,000 or $63,000 included new playground space, new playground equipment that I don't feel that the current students at Sandown North need. The equipment that they already have is perfectly suitable and age appropriate for the current student population. If the schools are consolidated, adding playground equipment that the older kids won't use doesn't make any sense, and the $63,000 or $65,000 will not cover the costs of bringing in enough fill to put in field space. I am not in favor of this motion.
Thank you. Yes, Dennis.
Looking at that figure, that 90,000 figure, is there any formal plan in place in regards to this and what this playground would look like?
Dr. Metzler.
Well, it would be helpful if we could get to one of the presentations before we started amending them. Mr. Hughes is here. He has a brief presentation on the playground if anybody cares to see some information. It's entirely up to you.
Okay. Yes, Bob.
So can I just, is that, yes, there is a formal plan in place? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, Bob.
I had a question. I was under the impression that the PTA had raised funds for the new playground. That's the last I heard was the funds were already raised for this playground. Was I misinformed that this was not raised? So it wasn't raised. Okay.
Yes, Jason.
I would just ask if it's all right with the moderator that we let Mr. Hughes make a presentation so that we're all fully informed on this issue.
Well, I mean, he can get up and have his 3 minutes, yes. I mean,
And I have another question though. If we're if in the event that Sandown Central closes, is that equipment not viable to be put in another location, considering you're not using it if you're not using it as a school, and we're using it for a facility that the town may use, isn't that equipment then going to sit vacant for it to become like a park for the kids to play in Sandown? So what I'm asking is, can't we utilize what we already have to make Sandown North what we wanted? That's all I had.
Dr. Metzler.
As practical as that may sound, we can't, once we touch the equipment is of no use to the school district because of liability. So it gets installed and it's a safety issue. So when you disassemble it, you can't just take it somewhere else and assemble it somewhere else.
Thank you. Does Mr. Hughes want to make a statement, 3 minutes presentation, or? Well, if there's no further discussion on the amendment is to reduce the 90,000 to 63,000. All those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed to the amendment signify by saying no. No. Abstentions? Noes have it. Back to the original article. Shall the voters of Timberlane Regional School District raise and appropriate up to $90,000? The expansion and upgrade of the Sandown North Elementary School playground, majority vote required. Yes, ma'am.
Jennifer Silva Atkinson. I vote to, I'm looking to amend that article to read that the voters of the Timberlane Regional School District raise and appropriate up to $75,000 for the expansion of the playground, with the money coming from capital reserve.
Do you have the? Another amendment to change 90,000 to 75,000 for the expansion.
Gordon, go ahead.
I'm thinking for a second. There is a question as to whether or not the Department of Revenue Administration would allow that. The issue is that you were warned that this money was going to be raised and appropriated as a straight appropriation, not that it was going to be taken from a capital reserve fund. By changing the appropriation to withdraw it from a capital reserve fund, I believe the department, if this amendment was passed and adopted, and then ultimately the article was approved, I don't believe you would be allowed to make that appropriation, and the Department of Revenue Administration would disallow the article because you were not properly warned that there was going to be a withdrawal from the capital reserve fund.
Do you understand that, ma'am? Department of Revenue Administration eventually would not allow the money to be taken out of the capital reserve fund to pay for the playground equipment. I believe her question is why?
As I said, the point is everything has to appear in the warrant, and the subject matter has to appear in the warrant. And when you are taking something from a capital reserve fund as opposed to appropriating it from taxation, it's two different things. Taking it from a savings account and dipping into a capital reserve fund that's already been established is deemed a different purpose, and that's the reason why. Frankly, I think that's silly. However, I don't make that rule. I'm just telling you what I believe they would do. All right?
Would you like to withdraw your motion after council?
You believe that's what they would do, or you know that's what they would do?
That's what they would do.
Okay.
Would you like to withdraw your motion?
Is there an answer to that question?
Thank you. Motion's been withdrawn. If there's no other, If there's no other discussion on Article number 5, Article number 5 will be placed on the ballot as read. Moving on to Article number 6.
Deb Brown Sandown, I'd like to make a motion to restrict reconsideration of warrant article number 5.
Motion been made to limit reconsideration. Is that what you want? To limit reconsideration. Is there a second? Motion been made in second. Any discussion on the limit to reconsideration? There being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Noes? Ayes have it. Article number...
Mr. Moderator? Excuse me. I'd also like to make a motion to restrict reconsideration of warrant article number 4.
Is there a second? Chief McCardle? John McCardle from Plasto, seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor of limit reconsideration on article number 4 signify by saying aye. Aye. Noes? Ayes have it. Moving on to article number 6. 2-year collective bargaining agreement, Timberlane Support Staff Union. Shall the voters of the Timberlane Regional School District approve the cost items included in the collective bargaining agreement reached between the Timberlane Support Staff Union and the Timberlane Regional School Board, which calls for the following increases in salaries and benefits at the current staffing levels over the amount paid in the prior fiscal year. Salaries, $82,518. FICA, $6,313. New Hampshire Retirement System, $8,952, for a total of $97,783. For 2016 and 17, $83,212, 6,366, $9,095, for a total of $98,673. And further to raise and appropriate the sum of $97,783 for the 2015-16 fiscal year, such sum representing the additional costs attributed to the increase in salaries and benefits required by the new agreement over those that would be paid at the current staffing levels. Majority vote required. It was recommended by the school board 8-0, recommended by the budget committee 10-0. Is there a motion to put it on the floor? Motion by Peter Belo, second by
Ms. Dancy,
Yeah, Karen.
may I speak to intent?
Yes, you may.
Thank you. So the intent of this Article 6 is to raise funds to support the bargaining agreement between the Timberlane Regional School Board and Timberlane Support Staff Union. The total appropriation for 2015-16 is $97,783. The amount to be raised by 2015 taxes is $97,783. The total appropriation for 2016-17, because it is a two-year contract, is $98,673, and the amount to be raised by 2016 taxes is $98,673. I would like you to know that the members of the board and administration met with members of the Timberlane Support Staff Union for many, many hours over multiple sessions. We negotiated in good faith, and both sides made significant concessions toward a compromise, which is what you see before you. It was mutually agreed upon and ratified by both sides, and we are asking you for your support for this contract. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Belo?
I just wanted to point out that there is a typo in what we have tonight for deliberative session. On page 2 of this article, warrant article, in the title, it says it's a one-year collective bargaining agreement, but everywhere else within it, it says 2 years, and it is indeed 2 years. So just...
Yeah, I'm not reading off that.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other discussion? There be no discussion. Article 6 will appear on the ballot as read. Article number 7. Article number 7, authorization for a special meeting on cost items. Shall the voters of the Timberlane Regional School District, if Article 6 is defeated, authorize the Timberlane Regional School Board to call one special meeting at its option to address Article 6 cost items only. Without this article, the district would have to petition Superior Court for a special school district meeting. This saves the district the expense of attorney's fees and court costs. Majority vote required. Recommended by the school board 8-0. Recommended by the budget committee 10-0. Is there a motion to place this on the floor for discussion? Peter Belo, seconded by Rick Blair. Is there any discussion on the special town meeting? There being none.
I want to leave it reconsideration.
Afterward. I got to get it down. There be no discussion. Article 7 will appear on the ballot as read. Go ahead. Speaking to the mic. Hurry up.
I'd like to make a motion that we limit reconsideration of Articles 6 and 7.
You're going to do one at a time. There's a motion to limit reconsideration on Article number 6, seconded by Jeff Pedalaro. Any discussion on limit reconsideration, Article number 6? There being none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
No? Ayes have it.
I'd like to make a motion we limit reconsideration of Article 7.
Is there a second? Second, Jeff Pedalaro. Any discussion on limit reconsideration for Article number 7? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. No? Ayes have it. 8, general acceptance of report. Shall the voters of the Timberlane Regional School District accept reports of agents, auditors, and the committees as written in the 2014 annual report? Majority vote required. Recommended by the school board 8-0. Recommended by the budget committee 7-0-1. Is there a motion put on the floor for the discussion? Thank you, Chief McCardle. Is there a second? Second by Bob Harb. Any discussion on Article number 8? There being none, Article number 8 will appear on the ballot as read. Article number 9, expand kindergarten to non-tuition full-day program on warrant petition by Brian Stack and others. Shall the Timberlane Regional School District expand the current kindergarten program to a non-tuition full-day kindergarten program in each elementary school with the increase in necessary funding coming from the operating budget, advisory only, majority vote required, not recommended by the school board 8-0, not recommended by the budget committee 7-0-3. Is there a motion to place this on the floor for discussion? Motion by Mr. Stack. Is there a second? There's a second. Kathy, your last name, I'm sorry. Goodman. Thank you. Mr. Stack?
Maybe less. My name's Brian Stack, resident of Plastow.
Hi, I'm Amy Gentile, Canton
Cantone from Atkinson. Thank God I have this in front of me right now. Today we're here to speak to you about the petition warrant article for full-day kindergarten. Access for all children to a comprehensive full-day kindergarten program has become a necessity, not a luxury in today's rigorous 21st century learning environment. We applaud the efforts of the Timberlane Regional School Board to explore this topic in greater detail and for their implementation of a tuition-based full-day program this current school year. We are sure that the school district officials would report that early indicators are telling them that the students who have been able to take advantage of this full-day option are making significant learning gains over their peers who are in the half-day program or who are not in kindergarten program at all. It is our understanding that the district intended to continue the pilot next year with an eventual recommendation to the school board that the program be made available to all students in the future. While this is a noble effort, it is simply not good enough for our current children who are of kindergarten age. They need the full-day program now, and we as a school community have a moral and ethical obligation to provide this program to all families, not just those who can afford it.
Thank you.
Full-day kindergarten is essential. Research tells us that it's the first few years of life for which we as educators and parents have the greatest impact on brain development and learning. By not providing our children with a comprehensive full-day kindergarten program, we're putting all of our children's education at risk. By offering it only to those who have the means to pay for it, we're hurting all children. First grade becomes a very difficult year to manage when it's composed of children who have had varying degrees of exposure to the rigorous kindergarten curriculum. I understand that my petition tonight comes to you not asking for money, but asking for it to be done within the operational budget. And I will tell you, as a longtime resident of this community, a parent, a school board member, former, for the Timberlane Regional School District for 6 years, and a school administrator in a neighboring New Hampshire school district for the last 9, this can be done. We vote in a bottom dollar figure here. We give the authority to the school board and to our administration to work within that number to do best for our kids. We did this in the district that I work in currently 3 years ago under significant budget constraints, and it is producing 3 years later amazing results. We as an administrative team sat around the table, we figured out how we needed to arrive at that dollar amount in order to implement the program, and we did it. We're not talking significant costs. A lot of the teachers that we need are already here. I've polled all of the schools. They may need as many as a half to one additional full-time position. There'd be some increases, minimal, in supplies. And of course, we'd be considering the loss in revenue that we currently get from kids who pay the tuition program now, but it can be done.
Thank you. Any other discussion on Article number 9? There being none, Article number 9 will appear on the ballot as read. The one we've all been waiting for. Article number 12, conduct impact and consolidation plan on warrant petition by Sean Friel and others. Shall the voters of the Timberlane Regional School District require that before any district school is closed or consolidated, the district school board must conduct a complete impact and consolidation plan to determine feasibility of the closing a school. The details of the study and consolidation plan will be presented to the district voters at a public hearing a minimum of 2 months before voting. The decision to close any district school must be placed in the school district ballot for voting. In the event the district school board votes to close any district school for the 2015-16 school year, the vote will be reversed and authority revoked by the voters of the district per passage of this warrant. Advisory only, majority vote required, not recommended by the school board 7-1, and not recommended by the budget committee 5-1-4. Is there a motion to place this on the floor for discussion? Motion by Donna Green. Is there a second? Mr. Rogers from Sandown. Anybody to speak on the article? Yes, Mrs. Green.
I have 2 questions for the council, if I may. What makes this advisory only?
Good. What makes this advisory only?
Because the decision and the policy is within the realm of the school board to determine how it wishes to enact policy concerning the maintenance and operation of the schools.
Thank you. Your second question, Mrs. Green?
Yes, thank you. This is a universal question. I noticed that the not recommended by the school board, not recommended by the budget committee, the numerals after the not recommended by are in inverse order from the conventional order. And I'm wondering why that is, and if we can do a universal change throughout, because the recommendations are not part of the warrant article legally. Is that right?
The recommendations have been approved by the school board, and the warrant has been approved by the school board.
Yes, but I'm not changing the recommendations. I'm changing the way they're noted on the warrants, which is a very untraditional, unconventional way. Putting the negative votes first. And so my point is, can we change them all throughout? Because they're unconventionally noted.
No, at the present time, the articles are written as the board approved the warrant. And unless an article has been amended, there can't be changes to the recommendations.
Yes, Mr. Collins.
I think what Mrs. Green is saying is that we voted, for instance, on Article 12, we were asked if we recommended this article, and we voted 1-7 not to recommend it. So to say that, I disagree with what Mrs. Green is saying, because I think it would become very confusing to say recommended by the school board 1-7, as opposed to saying, as it does now, not recommended by the school board 7-1. So I'm fine with it. I think it makes a lot of sense. It's how we've always done it. I'm not sure what she's talking about.
Yeah, I guess I would kind of agree, because you guys took the vote not to recommend. 7 voted to not recommend, Mrs. Green. So I don't understand the theology behind what you're trying to change.
Because in point of fact, we took a vote to recommend. We took a vote to recommend, and the vote came out negative. So it should be recorded as 1-7. But I don't want to change it on this one and not change it on all the others.
Well,
So I've understood from the council that the recommendation is actually part of the warrant. Is that correct, Mr.
Are
Graham?
these part of the warrant on the ballot?
The recommendations will appear on the ballot. They are part of the warrant that's been approved by the school board. As I indicated, recommendations can't be changed. If there's a mistake in a recommendation or there's a Scrivener's error, certainly the board has the ability to change that before it goes on the warrant. But that's not a subject for this meeting to decide. It's a subject for the board to decide.
Okay, and one follow-up question. Is it possible to reorder the articles that appear on the ballot? Because
Point of order.
this
We're
is an-
discussing Article number 12, which is a citizen's petition. That's what's on the floor. I suggest that we stick to that, Mr. Moderator.
Yes, he is correct. Any other further discussion on Article number 12, Mrs. Green?
I may want to reorder it.
Reorder? Hold on. Are you
Reorder.
asking a question of council if we can reorder what everything we've taken in place?
Yes, for the simple reason that
Hold on, please. Go ahead.
we have, for instance, we have 2 articles on Sandown Central, 3 actually, these 3 articles on Sandown Central. And if the voters choose Article 4 and say yes, and then they come down to the end of the ballot and they see 11 and 12, we're going to have a lot of spoiled ballots if they're not grouped together.
Point of order.
Okay, I'm gonna ask this one question, then I'm gonna move the question. Can we reorder? I didn't think we could.
Well, yes, I believe the voters have the ability to reorder the warrant articles as they appear in the warrant. And that does happen. It happens frequently, especially with respect to appropriations to capital reserve funds that come from surplus because the Department of Revenue funds those in the order in which they appear. So, yeah, I think that's, that's something that frequently can be done. So you have the ability, if you choose to direct that the warrant articles, when they're taken up in a different order, be placed on the ballot in a different order.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Blair.
So in the notion of reordering, for instance, we voted 1-7 to recommend something, which means we voted 7-1 not to recommend it.
Yes.
So the order is perfectly correct the way it is. It is reflecting the not situation.
Yeah, I think the question is, if you're going to have a motion, make it. Other than that,
My motion is to call the question. Seconded.
Mr. Moderator.
okay. I understand that, but we're not on that question. We're on the question of, actually, yeah, if there's no further discussion on Article number 12, there be no further discussion on Article number 12. Article number 12 is going to appear on the ballot as read. Now, the question that Mrs. Green has is, do you have would that be in a form of a motion, George?
Yes, I will make a motion. All right.
Her question is to, if I can just, we're going to do this really quick. Her question is going to be to reorder the warrant articles.
Mr. Moderator.
Okay.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Okay.
Mr. Moderator, could I speak before we adjourn, please? While she's doing that, could I just bring something up quickly? Could I be recognized, Mr. Moderator, while we wait on that?
Go ahead, Dennis.
Okay.
I'm not going to recognize a motion to adjourn because we do have business that is legitimately, and I can tell by a few people in the crowd, that they are willing to possibly entertain her motion to reorganize the warrant articles. So I will deny your motion to adjourn. And Mrs. Green, if you can get that really quick up here, because I know I'm not walking out when you
Can I speak real quickly? Can I speak quickly while we're waiting on that?
Go ahead, Dennis.
All right. First of all, thank you, everybody, for staying this late hour, and thanks, everybody, for being out here. I just would like to recognize Greg Sparrow, who has served 4 years on the Budget Committee. Unfortunately, he'll be moving on to the school board. Greg has served us in both roles as chairman and vice chairman, and he's been a valued member of this board, so I would just like to recognize Greg.
There's a motion to place warrant Article 4, 10, and 11 to make them warrant Article 4, 5, and 6. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Green. We know what the intent is. The intent is because the three articles are alike. If you want to look through what they are, Article 4. Article 4 would be the Sandown Central Elementary School kitchen renovation. Article 10 would be to amend the article of excuse me.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay. 4, 11, and 12. Oh. Well, we're not talking about the articles themselves. We're talking about reordering, which we can do. We're not discussing the articles, so the limit reconsideration is not even coming into play. The amendment is to warrant Article 4, 11, and 12 to make them 4,
Point of
5,
order.
and 6.
Mr. Moderator, can I ask a question?
Go
May
ahead,
I
Sue.
ask a question?
Go ahead, Sue.
So some of these articles are petitioned articles. Some are school board warrant articles. So can I get clarification from the attorney, yes or no, that we can put those petitioned, citizens petitioned articles mingled in with the school board warrant?
Okay.
Yeah, yes, you can do that, but please note this, because I'm going to bring it up in a second. You've got articles that name other articles in them. For example, Articles 7 and 6 are contingent on one another, and Article 7 names Article 6. If you change that, you're going to interrupt that, and as my notes indicate, that both Articles 7 and 6 have been restricted.
Yeah,
So please be very careful in how you reorder these. If you're going to do that, I'm going to have to bring that up later, and I would imagine that that's going to be an issue with respect to how you renumber those. That's the problem with renumbering articles.
Additionally, I would like to say that the other problem that I foresee in renumbering the articles is that these articles have been presented this evening to the public in a certain order. And they have been posted all over the place in this order. And I think that it would be confusing at the very least and possibly misleading to now change the order of these articles as they go to the polls.
Go ahead. Last comment, go ahead.
Ms. Stevenson just stole my thunder. If you go and you rearrange all of these, we've been discussing these online for a month, ever since they were presented to the public. We refer to them by number. As a school board candidate, I'm going to have to redo all of my signs.
Okay.
Not fair.
That's great.
And they're all posted
there's a
on the
motion that's been
website, so
seconded on the
everybody
floor.
can look at it all on the website as presented this evening.
Sir, I can tell by the crowd, we're done talking about this one. All in favor of the motion to reorder signify by saying aye. All those opposed signify by saying no. No. Noes have it. The articles will appear on the ballot as has been taken up tonight.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion made and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Beautiful. Thank you very much for staying this long, people. We'll see you next year.